We've had an amazing, incredible start to the day with the Dalai Lama. We had a really fun and enjoyable and meaningful introductory session with myself and the Unify founders, Patrick and Adil, where we just talked about why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing, shared our vision, our mission, our purpose of what this means today and for the next 10 days together. We've had beautiful sessions from the Dalai Lama, from Deepak Chopra. We've had Dr. Cam McDonald, Dr. Daniela Remy, and right now we've got Anne Larson, who's here with us right now to take us to the next level. And I really appreciate all that you do and all that you offer in this space. And Anne's talk is on connection medicine, and this is all around identity and community. Connections, it's essential to the human tribe, and we know the value of community and global connection. However, how do we make these connections and build strong relationships? The foundation for connection lies within our relationship to ourselves and understanding our epigenetic predispositions and the predispositions of others. So Anne Larson has spent the last 35 years passionately exploring the most successful ways to create change in people's lives. She's trained as a mental health social worker, family therapist, narrative therapist, and acceptance and commitment therapy, as well as mindfulness and healing meditations. Anne works collaboratively with people to develop a sense of personal agency that enables them to more fully engage with others in their environment, building a sense of self, place, purpose, belonging, and general health and well-being. Anne's managed the operational delivery of a large mental health counselling service and provided clinical leadership to psychologists, social workers, and many other mental health professionals in both individual and team settings. Sharing knowledge about connection and the importance of an epigenetic lens is Anne's passion and current focus in the world. And thank you so much for joining us here today. Connection medicine, we are very excited to hear all about it and to learn from you today. And again, thank you just for sharing your genius and your passion and purpose with all of us here today and for this next 10 days.
Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, I'm very excited to be able to share this. And as you've heard me say before, after many years of working with people, understanding this epigenetic lens and what it means to how we show up in the world, how we live that potential, and then for me, really importantly, how we connect to those around us and then get that ripple effect going that we're all talking about. I think that having the epigenetic lens really puts us in the best place to get us showing up in that way and creating the biggest ripples that we can.
I love it, Anne. Thank you so much, and really excited to hear this connection medicine conversation. I know this is just such a passionate journey of yours that you're sharing so much with the world. I'm aware of all the courses that you're running with this in relationship spaces and all the other stuff that you're doing. So looking forward to hearing about all that you have to share with us and how this can benefit and impact us on our next 10 days together here as a global collective. Thank you so much, Anne. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Just before I share my screen, I just want to say the point of this is that we have all probably heard how important connection is for our mental health. And when we think about connection, we can think in that really global way about how we connect on a global level. And in fact, we're having one of the most beautiful examples of that right now, what that really means when you get to have a collective come together and connect in this way. And I really loved hearing Matt with you and Patrick at the beginning talking about vulnerability, this importance of how together you can just build so much energy to send out into the world. And for me, this is what's interesting, this balance between what am I personally doing and how do I personally show up? And then how do I connect? And then what difference does that make to the world? How does that fit with what I really want to happen? So we think of that, the global stage, and then we have as part of connecting as part of a community. And then we have our interpersonal connections, and then ourselves and our relationship with ourselves. And this is when understanding this epigenetic lens makes such a big difference. So I'm going to share my screen and go through some of that. And I'm sure you'll find it all as exciting as I do. And I'm going to start at the global. We're going to work our way down, because the way I see it is it's almost like this goblet where it looks really big, the top bit, the global, the community, but actually the whole foundation of this is based on this base of this goblet, which is who are we? And as Matt said, who are we? And what do we need to do? It's so important to be able to understand that. So I'm just going to share my screen. So as I said, we're going to look at this connecting with ourselves, others, community, and the global connection. I'm actually going to start with global. Now, it's so interesting, again, listening to Madam Patrick speak. We can think about this global human experience. We have this commonality. And actually, when I heard them speak, it reminded me of a story from the Buddha that I heard when I was on a Vipassana retreat. And it was a beautiful story about grief, that grief is, we all know, it's one of those major life events that causes the most distress in people's lives. It's a great adversity. And this was a beautiful story, or it is a beautiful story, about the mother whose child had died and she wouldn't give up the body. And she heard there was this great master coming to a town nearby. And she took the body of her child to see him and said, I want you to bring my child back to life. And I think anyone who's suffered loss really understands that it feels impossible to accept something like that. And the Buddha said, yes, I can do something. If you go to the houses in the village, and you can bring me back 1 grain of rice, then I can do something. And she said, I can definitely do that. 1 grain of rice, is that all? That's so easy. And he said, but when you're there, you need to ask the people in that house, have they ever experienced a loss of someone that they really love? And of course, what happened is that she was immersed in that commonality of human experience, that global experience, where, of course, everyone had lost somebody that they really loved. Everyone had suffered that adversity and had found ways connecting with others that had got them through that. And I just thought that was a beautiful story to start off with, thinking about this is the commonality of the human experience. And we know that as we connect with others in that way, like in a global way, connecting with that smaller community, but connecting with the global human experience, we know that connection does improve mental health. I've been working with people in mental health for a very long time, and I'm always thinking about connection and purpose. And we know that the human tribe really thrives on connection. So there's lower rates of anxiety and depression. People will tend to feel better about themselves. It increases people's sense of empathy. So we know we're social creatures because we have all these parts of our brain that tune into others. And most people have heard about mirror neurons by now. So we can reflect in our prefrontal cortex what's going on with the people around us. But that's only one way. Other people are using their visual cortex to really tune into all the body language elements. Other people are using tonality to really key into that. So it really improves our empathy. It improves people's quality of life. There's increased life satisfaction. And we're going to think here that life satisfaction is slightly different from happiness. They're both really important for well-being, and we'll talk about what that well-being is in a moment, but they're both very important. And on the other side of that coin, we know that loneliness, it increases stress and all the difficulties that long-term stress can bring to our bodies and our minds, like cardiovascular disease, inflammation, hypertension, and over time, even that reduced immunity. So if we're talking about connection as medicine, we can see that it's going to have a strong influence. It's been shown in many, many studies. But what is it that we're trying to achieve? What is this elusive mental well-being? I also really loved what Patrick said. There is no failure here. We are not meant to be perfect. We do not have to be perfect. It is really about us thinking, who do we want to be and how do we take those steps towards that? So it's really interesting. I use this definition from Dr. Dan Siegel, because he's very famous in this space. It's just really interesting. And he talked about these really crucial elements: flexibility, adaptability, coherence, meaning that people are a bit consistent and systemic in their thinking, energized, so you've got enough energy for life and motivation, stability, and by stability that means not being blown with the wind, having a certain amount of non-reactivity in your life. Now, that is a very beautiful list, and I wonder if you look at that, how you feel right now. Do you feel like, well, some of those, I feel like I probably do quite well in that, but maybe not so well in others. And this is the issue about comparison and judgment. If anything's going to throw us out of our flow and then get in the way of us truly connecting with others, it's going to be this comparison and judgment. And this is again where the epigenetic lens becomes invaluable, because I'll go on to describe to you that there's just some people who their neurobiological predisposition leads them to be more flexible. Flexibility is pretty easy for them, just as is adaptability. For some people, it's so easy to just stay with that logic. It's easy for them. So it's, if you're sitting there thinking, I think I'm great in the moment, and I can really just change. If someone changes plans, I'm really good with that. But, oh, do I keep following logically, sequentially through something all the time? Or maybe not, because I might find that a bit boring. Then it'll be really interesting. Join up to our challenge, because you'll start to see why that might be. Just the same thing as being energized. Some people are naturally more energized than others. And I'll talk about this as one of the big four different characteristics that are different in different people. But I really want to say right now that we all, to improve our mental health, we really want to take many, many, many steps back from comparison and judgment. And this lens is really going to help you with that. So our relationship with ourselves, our sense of identity first, who we think we are, and then our self-esteem, how we view that, whether the value judgment that we make on ourselves around that is really the foundation of all our other connections. And if you look around you in the world, people who are making a difference, people who are alleviating suffering in the world, they are all coming from this space that we could call love, harmony, whatever that is. It doesn't mean they have to be in that all the time, but really looking at becoming more personally conscious. So let's just take a big back out into the top of the goblet again with global connection. We know global connection is so important because we have a wide audience there. Global communities wouldn't exist if it wasn't for local communities, smaller groups and individuals, of course, but they can be wonderful because there can be so much sharing of narratives, of knowledge. We can understand diversity between cultures much better, and we can network, and we can also look at where we need to join together for that human experience around planet-wide environmental issues. And here ripples go a long way. So I want to bring this back to the personal again, where sometimes for people, it's in this personal that you're creating these ripples. And again, I heard this being spoken out before. This is so important to me. I just feel like what we have the most control over in our lives is just every action that we take in the moment. And every action, every behavior will be based on our thoughts and feelings, our values, our beliefs, and what backs those up. So we achieve by having local communities working together as a greater whole. And we also see this we say connection is important, community is important. Well, why is community important? And community is so important. It can get things done, but it's important because it supports people in a certain way. So they create a space and there's a sense of belonging and acceptance. So you may be thinking, I think there's some communities that are better at that than others. And of course that is true. Not all communities provide all of this. And where I will be going in this conversation today is that there's some people that need these elements of community more than others. So there'll be, for some people, belonging, having a sense of safety and trust, feeling like they're being cared for, feeling like they're special within that context. There'll be some people that is what is really, really important for them. There'll be other people where the purpose of the group, a shared purpose, a shared commitment, and everyone can have all of these things. But in general, if I'm going to give one major message here, it would be to say, as humans at this moment in our evolution on the planet, we don't tend to be everything. And what we see is this plays out in relationships when people are talking about, I love this about this person, but I don't like this. I love this about this group and community. I don't like that. Of course, this is bringing judgment. This is comparison and judgment. And I can't begin to tell you how many times people have said to me, I really love this person. I really care for them. And I love all these characteristics, but I don't like these, and I just want those bits to go away because those bits are ruining my life, making me feel really unhappy. And what we understand with the epigenetic lens, and we'll go into this in a lot of detail, is that people will really have a tendency to be in different ways. And we just don't tend, if you love about somebody that they are constantly on point, on mission, they're persistent, they're going hard, they're really valuing success. But then you feel like, but why aren't you just like spending a lot more time being with me in that nurturing space? So it's not that people can't do some of everything, but they'll have a tendency to be in one way or the other. So also from our community, of course, and these, you'll notice these words all encompass what was talked about by Dr. Chopra as well: laughter, joy, empowerment, shared resource, common interest, something greater than ourselves, passion, livability, sustainability, and justice. But what happens in groups, often you'll know, you probably can think of quite a few groups that haven't been successful. So now I want to talk to you, as other people have from Shay, is that we are a rainbow. The human tribe is a rainbow. We are all unique. And this uniqueness plays out in a way that we know that no two people are alike. And as Matt has said, we see that in people's profiles. I've looked at many profiles, no two are alike. There's commonality, but we also know that these groups of characteristics end up running together. And they're running together for a reason, because they were developed by certain conditions, genetic conditions, and then epigenetic conditions. So we see here, because I'm talking about connection and social connection, I've got these circles of influence up that are around our interaction with human beings. But I would like to actually put another one outside of that, which of course is our relationship to the planet, our environment, all the other living creatures and on the planet, and the importance of that, the great importance of our biggest environment. So when we're thinking about identity, the reason this is so important is, how do I do that? How do I connect with my purpose? How do I accept people? How do I bring fun and joy into those groups? I hear this a lot. People talk about strong relationships are great for your mental health, but how do you do that? So a great place to start is thinking about that our identity really begins in the middle here of the circle, where we have this self. We're not a blank slate. We gave up on that idea quite a long time ago. We're not a blank slate. We are our genetics. And then there's developmental influences. If we think straight away, we're in the womb, and you've been hearing about this, with the epigenetics, as we interact with the environment. And then as we're born and we keep growing, we have this sense of self, but as we interact with the environment, we take these epigenetic predispositions with us, And that means that we will interact in a certain way. And it's because we interact in that certain way that this lens gives us some clues as to why is it that I'm thinking like that? Why do I feel like this? I mean, for me personally, it was so, in a way, so wonderful and freeing. And this is what I hear from people all the time. Wow, now that I understand this about myself, it makes so much sense. Oh, yes, I can be myself. I always thought I was that, but I didn't know if that was right. I got the message that that wasn't okay. And of course, when you're in that space of discomfort yourself, it's very difficult to truly connect. It's very difficult to be mindful of yourself, let alone mindful of others, and participate in mindful listening, mindful communication. And very difficult to develop a sense of consciousness if you've got this talk going on the whole time that's about, is it okay for me to be like that? That person's being more like this. And the great thing for me, you know, I almost could say it was wonderful to become a psychotherapist because it really helped me in my own life. It helped me manage some of my emotions because I have quite deep emotions. And it really just let me know. It said something about people who are in my category of health type. I'm what we call a diplomat. So if you haven't joined up yet, join up so that you'll understand what I'm talking about here. But if not, you can just think of people who are like this. So I just found out that I have a predisposition to worry. I was just hallelujah. Hallelujah, thank you for letting me know that, because I've been working on that worry ever since I graduated from my degree and got my first job in mental health when I was 22 years old, which was 38 years ago. And I've been worrying ever since. You know, I worry about things, and I think about the past, and I worry about the future, and we'll get to that, about this style of thinking. And all of a sudden, it's not that I wouldn't have done that work if I knew that. In fact, it's more important that I do that work. This is the clues that you're going to get to work on your identity. So remember that when you're looking at emotional intelligence, number one, that's self-awareness. The epigenetic lens just gives you something about your self-awareness. I mean, I thought I was quite self-aware. I'd done a lot of work, but I still found out something really wonderful, which is this is your predisposition. So congratulations, Anne, you've been working hard on that for a very long time, and you need to, and it was great. But do I need to give myself a hard time because I'm a psychotherapist? I work with couples and families all the time, as well as individuals, but I still have this sense of worry that I can't completely get rid of. No, I don't have to worry about that. I can just embrace that about myself as part of the beautiful kaleidoscope of characteristics that make up my personality. So you can see how in this way, we take this, then we interact with the world, with the people close to us, and we'll really talk more about that. And then with our communities, with our greater society, and then out into that spiritual world of consciousness. But you can never leave yourself behind. You take yourself into all of those interactions. There's some really major continuums of characteristics that make a big difference to how you interact with others. And I'm going to the screen in a minute where I look at this very specifically. But there's some really important elements, and they're actually not just found out by filling in a self-reporting assessment. They're actually part of our neurobiology. So this is where I talk about the moving away from comparison and judgment. Some people are naturally introverted. They need to re-energize by moving away from people. They need to dial down stimulation, where other people love that external stimulation. Those extroverts love that. Now, you can imagine here that people make judgments around this. So there's nothing good or bad about either of those. They just are. They just are. We just accept them. These actually are part of who we are. They're part of our biology. But what about when we make judgments about that? What about if we make judgments about ourselves and then we make judgments about other people based on this? And this is what I want people to really understand from this. So perhaps you are an introvert and you've been criticized for that. You should come out of your shell more, get on with it. You spend too much time in your room. And then that may actually then, as the person is interacting with their environment, they'll develop some sort of beliefs about that. Now, they could develop a belief of, that's okay, it's great, this is who I am, and I can also accept other people for who they are. The world would be a beautiful place full of peace of mind if that was the case. But what happens so often is that we are judged for our behavior and then we judge back. So it can be, well, that person who's really loud and has these spontaneous outbursts, they're the ones that just can't control themselves. They're the difficult ones. The same as energy conserving or burning. Here we get these labels of, you just can't sit still. Why can't you just calm down, just focus, to people who like burning lots of energy, or to people who don't burn energy. Oh, you're lazy. Why don't you get up? So you can see that what we know is that from 0 to 7, we are just sprouting neural pathways, right? We're just soaking in the whole world. We're watching, we're learning, we're soaking it all in. But from 7, we start to prune those. So we start to only keep what we use. It's a very perfect example of use it or lose it, because you lose the neural pathways that you don't use. And this is where those that Matt was talking about, perspective, perception, and then leading to like beliefs and meaning making, where they all come into it. Because as we start to have beliefs about ourselves and others, our brain loves that. It's energy conserving. It wants to have some hacks. Our brain is the original hacker. It just does it by itself. It can't manage all the information from the world and from all those relationships and everything that's happening, all our stimuli. So it has hacks. And its hacks are, I see what is familiar. We also have here stable and reactive. Stable just means not so reactive, not so changeable. Things happen. I'm still sitting there quietly. I'm taking it in. I'm thinking about that. But also, sometimes if I feel like I need to change, it might take me a while to get going with that, because again, these characteristics they're really judgment neutral. It's only this human experience and this interaction that we have through this circle of influence that leads to these beliefs then have us create these judgments around us. Well, you're being lazy. Oh, why can't you just sit still? And very interestingly, we have this other characteristic of some people are simply more other focused than others. Now, again, I wonder what you're thinking when you are listening to this. Are you thinking, oh, I think I'm an other focused person? Are you thinking, oh yeah, I'm pretty self-focused? Both those thoughts are perfectly legitimate and no, as statements, not laden with value. They just are. But then watch the secondary reaction. What happens? I know that I am quite focused on others. What's the next thought? Oh, I'm not meant to be like that. I'm meant to be focused on myself. I'm meant to be independent. Why can't I be more independent? That's one way your thoughts could go. Or you could start looking at other people and saying, oh, you're so selfish. I'm a good person because I have this other focus. I love being with other people and nurturing them, and I tune into them all the time. I'm so great because of that. You could be a person who's thinking, I'm self-focused, and actually I really love it because that's how I get stuff done. And that's wonderful, that it's just a characteristic. You've got a positive idea about it, but then maybe you get feedback from others You're always just thinking about yourself. Why can't you be different? So again, this is where we see that we have our absolutely this predisposition, but then we put judgment on it, and we compare ourselves to others, and we have judgments, and this is what gets in the way. So how do we build strong relationships? And the big question, I already said about this, everyone keeps saying, but how do we do it? Well, I'm saying to you that we need to understand ourselves, and we need to understand others, particularly with this epigenetic lens, because we know that we attribute motivation. This has been researched several times. This is some of the research that has been replicated quite a few times over the decades. When someone does something, we think you did that because, but that is coming from our perspective, from our beliefs, from our neurobiology. So when we can understand someone else's, then we're free. We're free to actually see that person for who they are. We can be free of expectations. We can move into more balance and flow. And this is how we really end up with some harmony in our lives. So I call this slide the health type dance. And I call it that because here we see that what we call the health types, remember we're all unique, but what we call the health types have certain predispositions. And you can see here that the way they interact, I'm just going to look at the colored bit, the way they interact with the world, they will have some similarities. So we see with who we call the activators, that some people end up with this idea, am I good enough? Can I really be who I am? Because people have given me negative feedback. We have other people that we call our connectors. They're so influenced by oxytocin that what they're looking for all the time, their lens is strongly, am I loved or lovable? They need to be loved. We have other people, the people who are sensitive to prolactin, as they interact with that circle of influence, they'll be thinking, I'm only okay if you're okay. They need some reciprocal care from you. They need to know that their caring is important. And then we have our diplomats, of which I'm one, uncertain future, never quite sure. We have a difficult relationship with serotonin. We end up with a lot of self-doubt. They need to be listened to and acknowledged. You can see these people need different things based on the neurobiology. Our senses need to feel special. They need us to be direct and help them feel safe. And then we have our crusaders. They're on a mission. They need to feel like they are important in their mission, and they really need from us respect and recognition. So just here, what we can see here, that people in flow are different. We see here for these people, passionate, they can do, they're active. For other people, being in flow is being interested in others, love detailed thinking. Start slow, whereas some people start fast. We see here with others, they love achieving, strong sense of purpose, very focused. Others nurturing, constantly creating meaning, slower pace. And our beautiful sunny people who just want to be sociable and be appreciated and be with others. Then we have our very reserved, introverted people who can really be our creative geniuses. So my final comment here is, if you are in flow, how will you connect to yourself? What difference could this make if you understand your neurobiology and where you start? How will that influence your relationship with yourself? How will you then take that to the close relationships around you, so that now you're really seeing those people for who they are? And, you know, ideally we could do this without this scaffold, but this scaffold really, really helps. It's a scientific scaffold. So I can see you for who you are. I really see you. I understand my lens, and I can peer through that lens, and I can really see you. And then all of you take that into your community. So when you're having community meetings, when you're trying to join and have common purpose, we'll know the best way to work this, because we're so amazing as a human tribe with our similarities and our uniqueness. And as we do that, I think this is how we bring peace of mind to the planet. So that's me, Matt.
Thank you so much, Anne, for an amazing session. Really, really appreciate it. I just love your perspective. I love the vision. I love all the things that you share from that perspective, from relationships, and how important it is for us to own our own identity, to understand who we are and how different we are. And it just all makes sense when we get ourselves, we can connect with each other and understand each other and accept each other. That's where peace starts from. And it's just a beautiful narrative and amazing work that you've been doing, Anne. So thank you for sharing that with all of us, and having that as part of the experience in an AI-driven technology is just incredible too. So super appreciate your time, and really, really grateful for all that you bring to today for World Mental Health Day and over the next 10 days too, Anne. So thank you very, very much. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you to everyone who's listening.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anne. We're going to switch to our next little segment. We're going to bring Katie Lee back to the stage here. And Katie, welcome to the conversation again. We've got her just to share a little bit more about the excitement as it unfolds in all the different areas along the journey here. So let me just make sure that Katie can have access here. And if Katie is not showing up, where are you, Katie? Katie is not here yet. That's okay. So we're gonna carry on. Katie, whenever you can find wherever you're at, give me a yell and we'll jump you in. But in the meantime, we've actually got to another session from Anne, which was going to be towards the end of the day, that we might even jump into now as a nice little bonus, which is another meditation from Anne. And we wanted to have two meditations, one in the morning, one in the evening sessions and slots today. And so that might be something we'll key up right now for those that are ready for a nice meditation. And we'll jump into that as Katie's getting herself organised for this next little segment. So I'll invite all of you guys just to get yourself into a nice, easy, comfortable space here. And let's take about a little bit of time this afternoon just to reconnect back in with ourselves. We've just heard from Anne, and we'll jump into that right now. Actually, just before we do, Katie, are you here? I think Katie might have just shown up after all. Katie, welcome back to the conversation. You are here.
Here we are.
Might have lost in cyberspace there somewhere. Welcome.
Thank you.
Katie, we're just about to check in. I just wanted to check in with how everything is at your end. I know it's been an incredible day, really exciting. The speakers have been phenomenal. The engagement with people has just been great. So thank you so much for those who are here live on this actual webinar. Thanks so much for those who are dialing in on the Facebook stream and who've been in and out throughout the day. If you guys have been able to do that with your work days and everything else. I know that World Mental Health Day could have been more convenient on a Sunday for something like this, but hey, here we are on a Monday in the US anyway. So, Katie, just love to get a checkpoint from you. I know we're all here for this big meaning, big purpose. Where's it at with you?
Yeah, this is so exciting. It's been great seeing the chatter and interacting with people in the Facebook group. There's been some great comments on the live and people just loving the aha moments and already thinking about, I need to make some different decisions, and that makes a lot of sense. And so lots of pennies dropping, lots of light bulbs going off for a lot of people. So that's been really great to see. And that's what we're really excited to do, to bring to the mental health conversation, that of course the mental health is so important. You know, it is about raising these topics. It is about having these conversations. It is about having some vulnerable shares and vulnerable moments just to create that space for other people to feel like they can open up and share as well. And that's what I love about precision health and precision mental health, is we actually have a whole new conversation to bring to the mental health paradigm. And that is looking at mental health with this precision lens, with this new level of accuracy, where we can actually help to identify holistic, integrative interventions for people to apply in their daily lives. And this is what we call a lifestyle medicine. So it's just those little tweaks and adjustments that we can make in our daily lives, from what time do we go to bed to what time we wake up. You know, we have control over that. We can empower over that. Or what time of day we want to eat our meal, or what types of food we want to eat, or the type of people that we want to focus on. It's all of these little tweaks that we can make in our day-to-day lives that have those biological ramifications. They do release the nice neurotransmitters or the hormones that our bodies are going to love. They help with the inflammation in the body. They help all these physiological processes just step by step by step, when we start layering all these little lifestyle tweaks, just the profound physical impacts that they do have is just, it's so inspiring. And I love that we have just these easy step by step instructions inside of our Shay app and inside of our profile. So we know exactly what to do to cut out any of the overwhelm and any of the guesswork, and just be very crystal clear of, okay, I can take this step and I can take this step, even if it's just a micro step. It's a micro step in the right direction. And you know that it's going to have all of these biological ramifications in such a positive way for your physical health, your mental health, emotional health, social health, spiritual health, because it's all in alignment and all just there available for you inside your Shay app. So it's so exciting to share this conversation with people, and it's even more exciting to share about the technology and for people just to know there's this type of support out there in the world right now in this tech for good space. There is this AI solution for people that's just there to truly help them be themselves.
Beautiful. Well, and well said, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective as always. And I think we've kind of touched on a few of the applications of this technology over today as well from some of the speakers. But just for everybody who's dialing in right now, in case you're not aware, this technology goes far and wide, and it's already impacting a lot of different places and spaces in schools, for example, helping quantify children and the ways that they learn differently. So they're learning styles, they're learning methods, their best learning environments for their unique biology and their unique psychology, even their behaviors and their behavior spectrums. This is a really, really powerful technology that's helping understand just so much about people, their minds and their bodies, and taking us to a whole new level. I know that a lot of the work that other people in the community have been doing in the parenting space, really bringing the technology to help parents understand their children in different and new ways, and even to help parents understand each other and the way they approach the conversation to do parenting, both from their different lenses towards the child and how that impacts the child and vice versa, and how that impacts them growing up together. Like just this really beautiful conscious parenting conversation and courses that are out there. So I invite all of you to dive deeper here if you're interested in the parenting aspect, if you're interested in the schools and personalized learning, if you're interested in what Anne was just sharing about with relationships. There's so many amazing courses on relationships, just understand each other, who you are and how that connects in, not just with self, but with others in different ways, as Anne talked about, with, whether it's an intimate partner or a parent, a mum or a dad or a son or a daughter or a brother or a sister or a colleague at work. Katie, I know you're involved in spaces in the corporate application of this as well, and the corporate environment. So maybe you could just share for a couple of minutes about maybe the work that the application of this in the corporate space too. Would be really interesting to hear.
Mm-hmm. So in the corporate space, in corporate wellness, we talk to employers and employees about this concept of leaving work healthier than when you arrived. So think about that. Think about that concept of arriving to work in the morning. You get there, you're sitting at your desk, you're doing your thing, and this day and age, you probably, have those cups of coffee. You might have the muffin or the Danish pastry. You might be sedentary. You might be sitting there for hours on end. And typically by the time you end your workday, your energy levels most likely are not as high as when you walked in the door that morning or sat down at your desk that morning if you're working at home. So think about that. Think about that right now, how much energy you have when you start the workday versus how much energy you have when you end the workday. Now, imagine if you almost flipped that or optimized that, and you had just as much energy, if not more energy at the end of your workday than when you started. Think about your lifestyle, think about your life, think about your day just starting when you get off work, when you're leaving work behind, and you have all this energy to go and do all these things that you really want to do. But paradigm shift. And that's what we love to talk to employers and employees about, is for them to understand it is possible when you just do certain things at the right time of day, make these choices, work on these different areas of genius because you're naturally gifted and have natural talents. It's so interesting. And around the mental health side of things as well, we do know that there's anxiety, depression, and stress is just rampant in the corporate space as well. So with this technology, we can take quantifiable measurements and understand people's quantifiable levels of stress and anxiety and depression in the workplace, and then have them use the Shea technology, understand the precision health principles and how we can apply it to the workplace, and see tangible improvements and drastic improvements in less than 30 days. We're seeing improved mental health markers improving by up to 85% in less than 30 days. So this is taking a benchmark from when people come in on day 1 versus day 30, an improvement of 85% for stress, anxiety, and depression. It's amazing. And it's just making these simple lifestyle tweaks and understanding how to incorporate and adapt that in the workplace environment. If you are working at home, if you are working in the workplace or in a hybrid, how easy it is to apply just these simple little tweaks. And so that's really exciting to see the mental health improvements that we can make just from applying this information and this technology in the corporate space. And then, of course, the other area that I get really passionate about is more about the health types at work and how we can use the psychosocial profiling piece, very similar to other psychosocial profiling paradigms like your Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder and DISC and other ones, and how this one is really just the next level in those psychosocial profilings. And this one really being around objective measurements instead of subjective measurements, which a lot of those current tools are based on subjective reporting. And this is all about objective reporting, helping people understand what their actual natural gifts and talents are, how they're naturally designed, how their brain function actually works, not asking their interpretation of how they think they might interpret certain behaviors or activities in the workplace, which is what the current paradigm talks about. So employers and employees do get really excited over understanding the health types and understanding how that can really optimize performance in the workplace and teamwork cohesion, and even just interpersonal dynamics, or leaders understanding their best leadership style, what we call healthy leadership and healthy communications, and really bringing health into the leadership space and the teamwork dynamic space, and health and well-being not be a siloed conversation, and leadership training and management development in a separate conversation. This is really bringing these two worlds together, and it's one and the same conversation. And so this is really exciting. This is where the deep, meaningful culture building comes from that so many progressive organizations really want. They truly want to engage with their staff. And this is just such an incredible tool to be able to achieve that. And it's so wonderful to work with so many organizations that are just committed to that vision and embedding Shea and precision health technology and information into every aspect of their corporate culture as well.
Fantastic, Katie. Thank you very much for that. That really just a broad perspective as to how this is applying everywhere. Really, it's for humans, right? It's for people. It's for anyone, anywhere, doing anything, anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's a human involved, this is relevant. And yes, and we love working with employers, employees in the corporate space. So if anyone is interested, please do reach out to us at support@shea.ai. Would be just love to chat to you about that. This is a really passionate area of mine anyway. So let's connect.
Thanks, Kate. Really appreciate all that you're doing on all levels, and yeah, love how this is just impacting lives all over the world. And it's live in 140 countries already and growing strong, and really excited to share this with the Unified community in this 10 days. It's just amazing. So thank you again, Katie, for all the things that are happening at the moment. So we're going to switch now to another meditation from Anne Larson. And now is a beautiful time. It's been a very solid day for those who've been here the whole time, ready for a mind break, ready to reconnect, ready to ground and open up and defrag a little bit from the sessions that we've had. So I'm just going to invite everybody to find a nice, comfortable, peaceful place where we can just enjoy a little bit more time with Anne Larson today after a beautiful talk from her. Very meaningful, very powerful, and I hope you guys get to enjoy this next little bit of time with Anne. So again, if you're driving, take it easy, but otherwise, please find somewhere that's a nice, safe space for you, and enjoy defragging on the other side here.
Welcome to our reflections on mental health and peace of mind. To begin with, we're going to take our focus internally, so that now we're going to push our feet into the floor to ensure that we are in the present moment, in the here and now, and then take our attention to our breath. as our attention is to our breath, I just want you to notice as you breathe in through your nose, can you feel anything? What is the sensation of that air as it enters into your nostrils? And then as you breathe out through your nose, what are the sensations there? What can you feel on the top of your lip as you bring your attention purely to your breath? And keep your focus there. We're not trying to do anything with the breath. This is natural. But you may notice as you're breathing that your breath is becoming softer and perhaps longer. Or you may notice that the out breath is longer than the in breath. If what you notice is that you're breathing from the top of your chest and that you're raising your arms up, your shoulders, and creating tension when you're breathing, that's okay. That just means that you've been in a lot of stress. And I want you to lower your shoulders. Keep breathing softly. And breathe down further into your chest or down into your belly. And notice when you breathe that your shoulders don't have to rise up. Particularly if you've been under a lot of stress, that could be happening for you. So just notice what's happening in your body. What are the physical sensations? And remember, as we're setting our intention about mental health and peace of mind, and as we're reflecting on our intentions throughout the day, remember that if your thoughts wander, that is perfectly normal, and that we just want you to bring those thoughts back to my voice, to your breathing, to any sensations that you're having in your own body. Any thoughts are going to be just put onto leaves on the stream. Imagine a stream of consciousness, and within that stream there are leaves flowing down that stream. And your thoughts are simply those leaves. There's something that you know are there, you can look at them, but in no way do you have to become attached to that thought. We're not going to fight them or try and get rid of them. We're just going to notice them, just be aware of them and allow them to simply float down that stream. So now, with your attention to your breath, close your eyes if that's possible. If it's not possible, that is also okay. If you're going about your day or evening and you need to keep going with that activity, just bring your attention to the activity at hand. Practice staying in that present moment, and then you will also be able to use your imagination as we now step back into that journey to a sacred space. So now, as we embark on that journey, you're going to see yourself walking towards a sacred space. This could be walking along a path. You could be in a forest. You could be by a river or a stream. You could be walking on clouds that are taking you to this sacred space that you've created in the sky. It could be out into the universe. So your stepping stones are the stars, are celestial bodies. Whatever works for you to be in that sacred space. And now you will see that sacred space unfold in front of you. What does it look like? What is there? Are there trees? Are there any animals, birds? Are there any bodies of water? Is there an ocean? Is there a lake? Is there a river or a stream? What can you see? Or are you surrounded by infinite nothingness? Are you out in the universe or way past the universe? Just look at what you can see there. And as you step in to this sacred space, now notice the physical sensations. Firstly, what can I hear? What are the noises that are in my sacred space? Take your attention to each one of those. If you can hear a bird, if you can hear the wind rustling, if you can hear the water moving, or perhaps it's just silence, and then revel in that silence. Then take your attention to the other sensations. What can you feel? What's the temperature like against your body? Is there any air movement? Is it warm? Is it cool? How comfortable are you? Just notice that as you're moving through this sacred space, and you're moving towards a special place of contemplation. And this can be inside a building. This is all your creation in your mind. It can be something that's inside, so you've created a building. It can be outside and a place to sit. It could be a sofa or a divan. If it is, maybe there's coloured pillows. Perhaps you have a blanket if you want to be comfortable. Or perhaps you're simply walking through this amazing sacred space. Perhaps that's how you best do your contemplation. But this is a place for contemplation where we're going to take our attention to mental health and peace of mind and reflect on what has happened through the day or days or weeks or months or years as you have taken your energy, your values of peace of mind, whatever they are. So if now engage with those feelings, values, and sensations again about what mental health and peace of mind really means to you. What is the state of your being when you are living in your optimal space, when you've reached that potential? What does that mean for you? And how did you carry that to the world today? If we go back to the ball of energy that you created within your body, the coloured ball of energy, it can be gold, silver, green, pink, any colour. It can be all the colours of the rainbow. And as you shared that with the rest of the world, what was the outcome of that? What was the outcome of that, of how you felt? And did you see that influence that you started to have on the world? So let's take our attention to the first group of people around you when you pushed your energy out and you were very present, bringing your values of love, unconditional love, peak performance, energy, nurturing, compassion, kindness, any of those values that are important to you when you're in a space of ultimate mental health and peace of mind. Peace, resilience, joy, happiness. So now I want you to reflect on when you go to that first span, you extended that energy out to the people closest to you that are around you. What did that feel like for you? How did you feel as you pushed that energy of peace and wellness out to them? And what did you notice about them? Perhaps you noticed that they weren't in such a great space. What was that like for you? When you noticed that that person that you're sending this energy to was actually feeling quite different from you. They were feeling sad, or they were feeling depressed, or they were feeling nervous or anxious, or they were feeling lonely. There's a whole range of emotions that they could be feeling. What is that like when you actually notice what that is like for you? And I don't want you to do anything with that feeling. I just want you to become aware of it. Because so often we actually flee from those feelings. We don't like that if we're in a good space. We don't want that to be changed by someone else. But for this purpose of sending out this love, joy, peace, and optimal mental health to others, just notice, what was that like for you? How difficult or how easy was that for you to be there? And if you were able to hold that space, and of course, if you couldn't hold that space, that is also completely fine. But if you were able to hold that space, what did you notice? How did that person end up reacting to you? Did that change? Were they able to shift a little bit? Because connection is so important to human beings. We have a brain that is designed to connect and interconnect and be influenced by each other. We have these amazing mirror neurons. We have this energy that connects to other people. So just notice, what might that have been like for them? And what was that like for you? There may have been other people that you took that energy to, and they were also in a place of love and peace and human potential. What was that like for you? What was that like as you joined with them in that? Did you notice how that energy just built and expanded when you were with that person? What was that like? What did that feel like? What were the sensations in your body? What feelings did you have? What thoughts started to happen for you as you joined with someone else who was in this joyful, peaceful place? So just contemplate those people in your closest circle. And then as we take that attention out a little bit further to the broader community, you may have noticed you just interact with people all day. Maybe a really short interaction. You went in to buy some fruit or vegetables from somebody, or you bumped into someone that you haven't seen for a while in the street, or you were at work with your work colleagues who are not your close friends but are important to you. They're part of your life and part of your journey through life. What was that like as you took your energy into all of those interactions? This amazing energy, peace, joy, love, optimal mental health. What was that like? What did you notice then? If you bumped up against someone who was experiencing what we might think more of as negative emotions or energy depleting emotions, but really they're just a part of the whole kaleidoscope of human emotion. It's just that some of them feel more unpleasant and we try and avoid them. But what was it like with these people who weren't quite as close to you? What did that feel like? Did that have a different influence on you? And what about when you just were interacting with somebody in a store or shop? What was that like when you came across what you might consider a more positive compared to a negative experience. But again, they're all just experiences. How did that influence you? Did you notice that anyone had, did it feel like that they could knock you out of this place of energy, of love, peace, joy? Or were you able to center yourself back into it? Because if you are having difficulty staying centered in that place, I would suggest that you keep in your mind's eye this idea of this ball of energy in the middle of your body that belongs to you. No one can actually touch that. No one can take that away from you. No one can diminish that. It simply belongs to you. So if you felt like it was quite difficult to maintain that position with some of these people, and notice, was that harder to do that with the people very close to me, or harder to do that when I was out in the more general community? Then bring your attention back to that energy that cannot be touched by anyone, that is who you are. And now, again, take your attention out even further. Think about what occurred in the greater community, in your society, in your country, in the world. Perhaps you listened to an amazing podcast of someone that you really love, that you listen to all the time, that you consider is really invigorating to you, that actually helps you move further and further into your potential. What was that like? What did that feel like? What sort of thoughts did you have when you were in that place? And what about if you came across an experience that was completely out of your control, and perhaps you were listening to the news and some disastrous world event? Then what was that like to feel that? What were the sensations in your body as that was happening to you? How did you react to that? Were you able to keep that sense of peace, joy, and happiness? Were you able to keep that sense of that energy within you? Or did that become really difficult for you? As we understand these cues and triggers that take us out of this space, we end up being in a better position to hold on to this space more clearly. We get to not only hold it, but we get to grow it and expand it as we do that. So now I want you to bring your attention back to yourself. Feel your mind and your energy pulling back from the universe, the world, your country, your society, your community, the people close to you, and come back into yourself. Really notice where you're sitting in your sacred space. Notice that this ball of energy that is you is intact and energized and living with you, supporting you in this life that you're wanting to live and that you're wanting to share with everyone around you. Because you may have noticed that when you lost touch with that sensation, those feelings, those thoughts, that energy, that then you also took other people with you, that other people also seemed to become more negative, that you started to interact with people in a different way as you came out of that space. So for now, we're going to leave this sacred space, but with us, we're going to take this amazing place of human potential that lives within us, and we're going to be constantly aware of it, so that as we go into the evening or the morning, or as we just are interacting with those around us, we're going to take that feeling with us, and we're going to share that feeling with the people around us. And we're going to maintain the awareness of the influence we have when we're in that space. So now just see yourself leaving that space, that sacred space, and you're back now in the here and now. Feel yourself pushing your feet into the floor again. Take some nice deep breaths. And when you're ready, open your eyes or bring your attention back to whatever daily tasks you're involved in. But know that you're bringing these amazing sensations with you, and that you're going to keep sharing that amazing sense of presence that you have.
Thank you so much, Anne. What another beautiful session. Really beautiful to be in that space together. I love how we've just been a co-flow throughout this whole entire day with mind-blowing sessions through the deep grounding meditations and everything in between. Again, thank you all so much for dialing in, whether you're just joining us now, whether you've been here with us the entire day since 9 o'clock this morning Pacific time. It's been an incredible day packed with just amazing speakers. We started off the day with Dalai Lama. We had a beautiful introductory welcome session with myself and the founders of Unify, Patrick and Bill, just to set the scene. We dive deep and connect on all the things that matter about mental health and share our vision, our perspective and our missions, what we're trying to do in the world, and just support these sort of community events and initiatives. We heard from Deepak, Dr. Deepak Chopra to share. We had Dr. Jane Goodall, Dr. Cam McDonald, Dr. Daniela Remy, Anne Larson, and right now we've got Dr. Avi, who's coming to join us to share about software as medicine. We've had some interesting talks today, really tangible, really helpful, just to really get a head around it. And as we all know, we're here for the 10-day challenge. We've got this beautiful integration of AI into the mix of what's happening over the 10 days with us. It was really great to hear Deepak just share as well about the importance of technology and his perspective as to how we're integrating that into the future of what we're doing through consciousness. We're all on the same page, on the same journey. It's a beauty, and welcome to the stage, Dr. Avnesh, right now. So this talk here, software as medicine, really excited about it. It's a pivotal education presentation covering how software and digital technology is really evolving into the future of health and wellness. It holistically bridges the understanding between life as a consumer, between purpose, between career, success, decision-making. Also integrates how you can lead and manage challenges in workplace, mental health, workforce shortages, organizations' performance. Dr. Avi is the founder and CEO of Energess, a leading digital company improving workplace mental health, staff retention, and employee experiences. He's a thought leader and multi-award-winning innovator. Dr. Avi advises leading CEOs and HR leaders from large corporations, small to medium enterprises, as well as healthcare. His team's developing the world's first digital companion for HR leaders. It's very cool. It's with AI-enabled algorithms to address workforce shortages, well-being, and business performance. His disaster management platform received a global award during the pandemic. His career first began as a doctor in the UK and Australia, after which he ventured into biopharmaceuticals as Chief of Staff at Pfizer, Australia, managing products worth over $100 million and an organisation over $1 billion in revenue. So he knows what's going on. As an entrepreneur, as a serial entrepreneur, he's founded 3 tech enterprises. He's been featured in the media, including Sky News, ABC, and Insurance Business America, and is presented at the World Congress on Prevention and Wellness. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Avi. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and really excited to hear about software as medicine. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Matt. It's really great to be here and super excited to meet everyone from the crew, as well as everyone out there who's listening in today as well. Can you hear me okay? Is my sound coming through pretty good at the moment?
Got you loud and clear. Thank you, Avi. We can hear you perfectly fine. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, brilliant, excellent. So what I'll do now is I'll just open up and share my screen and bring up a presentation that I was about to share with everyone today. And what we'll do in this very quick transition phase is to really look at a little bit about digital medicine and software support. Is really software as a medicine, where is that going and how is that evolving and how does that relate to you and this challenge that's actually coming up as well. So I really want to thank the team at Unify, the team at Shea for their fantastic development of this particular wellness challenge and this Peace of Mind Summit, which is so critical for World Mental Health Day. As Matt mentioned, I'm Dr. Avi Ratnanason. I'm the founder and CEO of Energize, and really here's some of my contact details below. If you'd like to reach out, I always love interacting with the community, supporting the community through times like this, particularly around mental health. Now, what are we going to cover off today? So firstly, we're going to start a little bit about my journey, how I've evolved my life, my work, and my journey in mental health. And then we're going to talk about the bigger picture of digital health trends based on my experiences, how that relates also to the wellness of consumers, but also how that relates to the other part of that system when we do get sick, which is that healthcare side of things as well. We're also going to bring that into the topic of data and the future human experience. So where's the human experience going to go into the future? How is data going to play into that? How is your data going to play into that? And then for those of you who work, who have a career, who have a job, we're going to talk a little bit about workplace mental health as well, and then close off with your journey and your next steps as part of this challenge. I'm super excited to share a lot of this with you, and really want to thank the team over there for inviting me to this again. And so really a little bit about my journey in life. So I started off my career as a medical doctor, a medical practitioner, an MD, as you'd call it, in the UK. I trained in the National Health Service in the UK, which is the public health service. It's actually the largest employer in the world. I think there's got over several million employees. And during that time as a doctor, I realized that actually, whilst I love helping others, treating people clinically one-on-one, and I practiced that for many years in the UK and then also in Australia, I realized that I wanted to make a bigger impact in life. And so I went about learning about management, and I studied an MBA. I got into management and became an executive in initially biotech company, and then went on after a period of time to get headhunted and join Pfizer. And Pfizer was the largest pharmaceutical company in the industry at the time. It was turning over about $1 billion in revenue in Australia alone, 60 billion market capitalization globally. And they put me in charge of Viagra, which was the most famous drug in the world at the time. I'm not sure why they put me in charge of Viagra. It's possibly due to my hairstyle at the time, representing the benefits of the product. Maybe that's it. But really, it was a very interesting experience to understand how medicines are researched, developed, and how they're distributed in order to make mass impact on health and well-being. However, during that period, I also had this entrepreneurial burn, this entrepreneurial spirit that actually wanted me to actually try something different and create my own business. And interestingly, I had this passion for technology. I had this passion for film and video. And really, my first startup was in that digital video space, where I started companies that were able to make film and video using mobile phones. Now, that was back in the day when, if you recall, mobile phones and apps, the video technology, this is going back 10, 12 years ago, was just getting better. And I wanted to democratize filmmaking. I had 2 startups in that space. One succeeded, one failed, but I learned a lot from that process, and then found it that why is it, and asked myself this question, why is it in all my 20 years in healthcare that technology companies were able to understand the user experience at such minute degree of detail? They understood the human experience down to the point of where your eyeball goes and which button you're likely to press. It was such a wonderful way and tool that we could use in healthcare in terms of how we help others with health and well-being and patient care. And hence I founded Energize. We've been going for about 10 years now. A lot of our work is about advising organizations around how they treat others, as well as how to introduce technology to do this. Over that period of time, we've transcended about 5 countries with the work that we've been doing. And so it's been a real journey seeing and obtaining best practices in health and wellness from all around the world and sharing it with different organizations along with technology. However, in parallel, running a company, leading a company of this magnitude was also very stressful on my life. And I found it quite tricky at times to obtain my own work-life balance. Part of my past behavior was also resorting to cigarette smoking and also alcohol in order to cope with that stress. And I found that just gradually made things worse in terms of that stress and anxiety. And so I also went through a mental health journey of transforming myself to break free from these substances that become crutches for our mental health. And in that process, actually discovered music. Music was a therapy for me. Music medicine is a talk I'll do some other time, but really I became a DJ, and all my Saturday mornings and Saturday nights were then devoted to playing music for others in order to help elevate mood. And my handle there, DJ One Conscious, is my side hustle apart from my main hustle. And so many of us out there now who are in the workplace not only have a first job, we all have a second job as well that completes our purpose and our well-being. But part of the reason why I'm telling you this story is to share with you where these insights come from. Part of it is also to actually relate back to what Steve Jobs said in one of his famous speeches in Stanford. Is you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. And sometimes in our career and our mental health journey might seem like it's all over the place, but as you discover your purpose more and more, you'll actually find that there's a reason behind everything and that you are exactly where you need to be at any point in time, as long as you keep learning. And so what I'd like to share with you is what are some of the digital trends that are occurring out there across health, pharmaceuticals, and diagnostics that I've picked up and learned, and I'm sharing with other companies all over the years. Now, some of the big trends in digital health involve things like, obviously, we all have apps on our mobile phones, but the gamification of that, making health fun, making wellness fun so that we keep doing it has become quite a big trend in health and in digital. The Internet of Things. So ensuring that all our devices are connected in some way. Some people who have pacemakers have them connected to the Internet in some way, but we also have that even in our homes. The way we regulate temperature is now connected to the Internet. Our kettles, our TVs are all connected to the Internet. All of these can have an impact on our mood, our mental health, and our well-being. On top of that, there's what we call augmented reality and virtual reality, two different things that I'll talk a bit more about how we visualize reality differently using digital. And then there's big data. There's more and more data being collected from all the different systems, products, and so on that is being translated into health and health benefits. The blockchain, I'll touch a little bit on, but then obviously artificial intelligence is a very big category as well. Why is all this occurring? Well, one of the reasons is Ray Kurzweil described the Kurzweil curve. And this curve is really the curve of how technology is evolving over time. And if you look at this curve, the exponential growth in which technology and data becomes available at your fingertips is increasing at a remarkable pace. So if you look at this time point of 2023, which is really next year, we will be able to access the computational technology of an entire human brain just for the $1,000. Just for the price of a refrigerator, you will have all the computational power within one human brain available to you. Right? That is a phenomenal statistic. But what's even more phenomenal is that by 2050, in a relatively short space of time, next couple of decades, you will have, for $1,000, the computational power of all human brains, right, on the planet, which is absolutely mind-blowing. It's absolutely incredible. And so how are we going to use this and tap this for good? And how do we make a positive difference with this evolution of technology? Because technology is not all positive, right? Some of us are addicted to our phones. Some of us are addicted to social media. We keep looking at that. We compare our lives to others. Sophia Amoroso said, don't compare your hustle to their highlight reel. Because often we compare our challenges to other people's successes when we constantly look at these news feeds and so on. And so that addiction to digital can also have a dark side in mental health as well. And in fact, Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And so often we also have to figure out what is the right balance with digital as a medicine, as a therapy, and how much do we actually use and detox from that. when we look at what's going on in the world in mental health as well, there is this loneliness epidemic. And so when we say the loneliness epidemic, and I use the term epidemic lightly, but really studies from the British Medical Journal have shown that about 1 in 3 people will experience loneliness in their lifetime in that study, but 1 in 12 people will experience loneliness so great to the effect that it will actually affect their physical health. Right. So loneliness is one of those precursors, that feeling of being alone, the feeling of being isolated. Is incredible that this is growing at such a tremendous pace when we have 7.75 billion people on the planet. How did we let this happen? Right. We have more people than we've ever had, but we've got more loneliness than we ever have as well, because we've lost that sense of connection. And so it plays on this and technology is actually evolving to help people bridge that connection. There was this movie called Her, where Joaquin Phoenix fell in love with his AI virtual assistant. Right. And that was a movie about that. But we're already seeing technologies being developed to actually be companions for people to help them through this loneliness epidemic as well. And so the future human experience is going to actually involve or integrate several digital needs in one. So one is, us humans are going to want technology to empathize with us, right? Where we can't get people to relate to us, we will want technology to do that and empathize with us. To some degree, we want technology to nurture me as well. And so nurturing being helping you through that wellness journey and health journey all the way through end to end, not just one-off transactions. Thirdly, meet me where I am. So the technology to bring a service or a health service or a wellness service to where you are, rather than you having to go to a clinic, a therapist, a hospital, or so on. That technology actually comes to you. And so much of that has happened over the last couple of years through Zoom and various other online consults. But also we want to make it easy for me. I want that service, that healthcare product or that wellness service just in one click. I don't want to make it too complicated. And so technology needs to evolve in these directions in order to make that happen. But at the same time, we human beings, we are complex. Well-being is a holistic form. For all of us, that's spiritual health, mental health, physical health, social, career, relationships, environment, financial, that's all part of our well-being. So technology needs to also address these different parts of our well-being. And some of it's very tactical, but some of it is also connecting the different parts of holistic health. And you'll hear more about this as you go through this next 10-day challenge. Now, in order to improve the experience of science, and I'll come through some of the technologies doing this, one of the things that we've learned is that we experience things. The starting point is always an experience. The starting point of how we interact with technology or how we interact with others, how we interact with the environment is all an experience. And we've created a model to actually help people journey through that experience, understand the emotions, engage within themselves, and then execute solutions to achieve excellence and evolve as a person, to evolve in our consciousness. There is a model for that, and I'm happy to share more of this as time goes on. But effectively, how that's playing out in technology is through a variety of things. And so we're starting to see things like apps that are gamified, as I talked about, being produced by many different organizations. I mean, it wouldn't surprise you that an innovative company like Nike is creating game apps like the Run Club in order to connect people and socially bond to go for runs. And so that's incorporating that physical health along with social bonding and creating that connection, but also facilitated to technology. Now, some of you will say, well, that's not surprising. Nike's a really cool company. They're always coming out with great technology. But what's really interesting for me is starting to see governments start to promote this as well. And in Australia, the Department of Health is actually promoting mobile apps for people of various demographics on their own website to encourage the uptake of health. So we're now starting to see those late adopters, those risk-averse organizations also starting to share these apps on their websites. And you can go to your government websites and look for these sorts of apps as well that have already been vetted and recommended by your governments. Now, in addition, I talked a little bit about virtual reality, but what's really interesting is the applications in health and wellness. It's really interesting for me to see in some of my practice and journeys how it's being brought to various different environments in healthcare. For example, on the left, you'll see an older woman undergoing chemotherapy, actually using virtual reality goggles and a Samsung device that actually enables her to go on a journey of skydiving as one of the journeys she can select, going through the Amazon River and rowing through that river in a virtual reality experience in order to break the boredom and the loneliness of being in that chemotherapy unit, which often takes 6 to 8 hours of receiving an intravenous drip. And so that helps with that mental distraction and providing some joy throughout that experience. This is also being used with children, particularly as they're going through an operation where, as you know, it can be quite anxious, quite scary for a child. But using these VR devices is also enabling them to be distracted and have some fun experiences as they're going through that anesthetic process, and alleviate some of the anxiety, which then also makes it a better experience for the parents as well. So I really like seeing some of this technology being used for good, but also as we look at things like augmented reality. Now, augmented reality is when you overlay a sort of a digital image onto the real world. So that could be your physical being as well, or it could be the environment that you're in. And now, in terms of the physical being and ways in which they're used in healthcare, now is one of the examples is AccuVein here. Now that's a technology that actually can project the veins underneath your skin and actually enable easier facilitation of cannulation. This is where you have to put in a drip. Now, me as a doctor, I used to have to put in drips and stick that needle into so many arms, and sometimes it was quite difficult. Sometimes it was 2 in the morning and the person would be elderly, and I always felt terrible about doing it. But devices like this actually make it easier to find that vein, go in, which will be less pain and less discomfort for the people that we have to treat as well. And so there's a lot of good in that, but it's also being used in very advanced ways, such as operations, where people are being operated upon, and the technology can actually overlay the organs and the vasculature within the body to actually make it easier for the surgeons to operate and prevent any sort of damage to the blood vessels and other important organs as well. In addition, software is also being used to produce and many different things. It's used to, there's 3D printing now that's occurring, which is absolutely phenomenal. This is printing of any particular product or drug or medical supply on 3D printers, which are actually devices that are portable. And so now you can actually get, I know most of us don't want to be on medication, but the thing that's evolving in this space, which is a reality, is that some of this is becoming more easily available because you can 3D print them, not just before in these big manufacturing facilities, but actually in the pharmacy itself or in the hospital itself when they're short of drugs. And so these 3D printers are becoming part of the technology spectrum, and is going to bring about more change in this space. But also, it was used a lot, quite a bit for medical equipment. These were actually equipment that was actually being used during the pandemic, such as the face masks, the shields, where so many places were actually short of that equipment. Printing was occurring in order to facilitate and accelerate that. What's really interesting coming out of this is also the field of robotics. And in the robotics field, we're starting to see robots come into the space of being empathetic, as I talked about earlier. And you can see this robot here, Sophia, being interviewed in a very real way, is able to communicate, but also assess the emotional response of the human just by the eye movements, the mouth movements, just like the way that you're looking at me right now and assessing my emotions. Robots can actually do that now as well, which is quite scary in some ways, but also very, very exciting. And one of the things that's actually quite phenomenal, this particular robot, Sophia, actually got made a citizen of Saudi Arabia in 2017. This is the first robot to actually receive legal personhood in a country. It's already happened 5 years ago, right? So really, robots are going to play a much bigger role in our health and wellness moving forward as well. Now, the big tech, it used to be big pharma, but now big tech have really moved into this space in a big way. They've all been developing their AI engines and tailoring them for health. Some are successful, some are not. Google developed DeepMind and DeepMind Health as their AI engine. Apple, as you know, Siri is behind the interface that uses AI to interact with you. That's their contribution. Companies like Deloitte, Amazon are all playing the game in some way. IBM had IBM Watson, which was really a front runner for a point in time in that AI space, and branched off IBM Watson Health in order to actually help clinical decision making. That had some significant challenges, but they've spun off the company. It's now called Reactive. So organizations that in big tech are playing a role in this space as well. Having said that, this all sounds really, really cool, but what's our experience like, not just in wellness, but as we encounter the health system, you know, we still have challenges, don't we? I mean, I still hear people having complaints when they can't find parking in a hospital, and there are particularly stressful times in their mental health when they actually go through a physical health experience. So many hospitals have bed blocks, they wait so long that they can't get appropriate care. And also when they're in care, you know, the food isn't particularly great. Sometimes you have clinicians that are so stressed and burnt out that it's often difficult to regulate emotion. And also simple things that are important for healing, the healing experience, such as good sleep, which is pivotal for mental health, is something you can't actually get in a hospital sometimes because people are running through delivering the medications, so on and so forth. That noise at night, actually, in a way, it's preventing that healing experience from occurring. So how do we actually deal with that? Well, fundamentally, it is about the workforce, the clinicians, the nurses, and all staff members to actually change that experience. And I'm sharing this story with you because there's a way in which you can be involved in this whole experience and co-create a better experience as well. And how do you do that? Well, one of the things that we did was facilitate the interaction of you as the consumer with the health system. And several years ago, one of the things that we did, we don't do it anymore, but one of the things that we did do back then was actually collect real-time patient feedback. So that is your feedback as you enter the health system being collected on iPads, kiosks, your mobile phones, and so on. And what was interesting that when we started doing that and using AI tools to do it was that people were actually typing in their comments on their experience. They would talk about their experience, what was positive, what was negative, what was their story of the experience, you know, how they interacted with the wards, how they interacted with the doctors, the nurses, the practitioners, and so on. And they'd type it out in text. And so one of the things that we did back then was actually then run what we call sentiment analytics. And this is machine learning AI that was able to run through all those comments and pull out all the positive words, the words around love and care and support. And predominantly, it was a positive experience, but there were also some words around fear, anger, frustration, and so on that were causing some of these emotions. So this technology was actually bringing about or mapping the consciousness of the experience within that healthcare system, and then building empathy, because when the nurses and the carers could actually see some of these comments, they became more activated to want to actually care better for you as a consumer, you as a patient, and actually also look at deeper, because you could click into these words and find out where was that frustration points in the hospital, where were the disappointing points, which part of the hospital, was it the pharmacy, was it the entrance that was causing anxiety, and how do we actually shift that? So that transformation was really, really important. So using software in medicine for deeper listening was important. But then technology and software is also coming into preventing people from coming into hospitals, because we all know those hospitals are always full. We don't want to go there. And so many people here don't want to go into hospitals. And so organizations such as the National Health Service that I used to work in many years ago have been introducing digital technology and AI chatbots to actually even talk about, help you chat about your symptoms. So you can actually type in your symptoms on any particular day, and it can give you advice on how to deal with that particular symptom, and if you need to escalate that by going to a doctor or not, thereby actually making that interaction more efficient and convenient for you, because you could do it from your home. Additionally, it also linked in booking engines that could actually help you book those appointments as well, which is now all fairly commonplace, but the adoption is still increasing. In addition to that, there is more and more software being introduced into the pills themselves. So where people used to take medication, now there are actually software and chips that are introduced into that medication in order to actually track the flow of medication, whatever you're ingesting, how well you're ingesting that through an app. And also enabled by a reader that you wear with you, the clinicians can actually look at that data and make some decisions on how to improve your ingestion of medication, whether you're able to take it well or not, but also look at that at a population level. And so how does that information actually shape how we change how treatments are taken, when they should be taken, and so on. Finally, also one of the things that's also occurring in the digital space and software space as far as medicine is concerned is also what we call clinical trials. So before, we would put a lot of people through clinical trials by actually testing physically testing a drug or a device straight away or instantaneously. But with the advent of big data, we're now able to do what's called in silico trials. And these trials is where you use simulation models. Because you have so much data, you collect all this data on the drug or device that you're testing. You collect data on the disease that you know about or the illness, and you collect all the data on that specific patient cohort. And then you combine all of that together in a virtual environment. And from that, you're able to test the efficacy or usefulness of a device and how safe it is as well before it goes into human trials. So a lot of this software is coming into many different facets of the health and wellness spectrum, such that it's actually making things easier and safer for us as humans. So how we see that playing into mental health is that we're going to go through this journey, right? Where we've gone from, and this is adapted from the work of Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who wrote the book Anti-Fragile, but he also wrote about the black swan. And the black swan is events that are unpredictable, such as things like pandemics. And he wrote about how, in order for us to survive and evolve and go stronger, one of the things we want to do is to become anti-fragile. Now, what does that mean? See, many of us, when we go through a health trauma and an event in our lives that's a death, a catastrophe, a loss of a limb, a loss of a loved one, for example, we go through this dip in our mental health. We become depressed, anxious, and so on. It's called the Kubler-Ross grief curve. But through that grieving process, we experience this fragility. We feel a little bit damaged by that trauma or that disorder. And the whole science around resilience is about how do we bounce back, and how do we bounce back to where we were before, in terms of, coming back to quote unquote normal, being normal. However, the concept that Nassim Nicholas Taleb was talking about in terms of anti-fragile is how do we grow from that trauma? How do we become better, and how do we grow from that disorder? So in the case of myself, for example, I was a very busy, stressed and anxious sort of entrepreneur. I was resorting to substances at the time to adapt, to get out of that fragile state. But however, now I've broken free from that. I help others through those challenges using technology, and I also use music and run sober raves in order for people to enjoy themselves through music in a non-substance environment. That's how you grow from a trauma. That's how you become anti-fragile. So start thinking about how you too can use technology to become anti-fragile, not just to bounce you back to where you were before, but how can it make you stronger in terms of your mental health and help others through the process as well. And one of the things I want to share with you, because whilst there's a lot of information that I've just shared with you on the various different technologies, there was a debate. I want to share with you this story. There's a debate between Jack Ma and Elon Musk. Now, Jack Ma, some of you may know, is a multi-billionaire founder of Alibaba, and Elon Musk, the multi-billionaire founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and so on, right? And these two guys were having a debate. And in that debate in Shanghai, they were talking about AI. And Jack Ma fundamentally felt that AI would be used for good and for the betterment of human society. And Elon Musk fundamentally believed that AI would, at one point, potentially destroy or harm humans because it would become more intelligent than humans and want to do it like that. Now, these people, you could argue, are some of the experts in the world around the use and commercialization of innovation and technology. And they had polar opposite views on the use of technology, which comes back to this point. Different experiences leads to different technology preferences. And you too will have a different experience in your life, in your belief system, in your experience. And therefore, you too will have a different way in which you want to use technology and software as a medicine for yourself. And so before I hand back to Matt for a quick break, really, I want to touch on this quote by Rumi, who and is this famous poet who said, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. But today I am wise, so I am changing myself." And what he was really alluding to is this concept of really look within your own consciousness and figure out how you use technology to actually adapt to that. And I'll hand it over to Matt, if he's back, to actually ask a couple of questions around this as well.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. Fantastic to hear just all about what's happening in this space. And it's always really exciting just to dive deeper on these conversations, to get a finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. And I love that you're right on the front curve of being across all of it. And the concept of software as medicine is just really important, I guess, at this stage of our journey as humanity, as we're evolving into this next phase that's, as you share, a little bit uncertain. You know, who's gonna be right. You know, between the two of those guys, you know, debating on stage, you just never know at this stage. However, we will be doing our best to make sure it's tech for good, and that's what we stand for. And we're excited for everyone to experience that for this coming 10 days together. Abby, I'd love just to, I guess the thing that I'd like to hear a bit more about, if you can, you know, obviously been aware of the journey and on board the journey with Dan and Jess. It's an exciting concept that you guys are rolling out. Just for the day has been a really incredible mental health journey so far, a lot on the personal side of things and the deep dive to really get tangible on what they're going to be doing for, you know, the next 10 days together and what we're all going to be immersing ourselves in. Would you mind just sharing maybe a little bit of an insight on the workplace side of things? We haven't touched on that a lot yet, but just to get to sort of round out the day, if you got something on, you know, workplace, what are we actually seeing in mental health in the workplace? What are the gaps that we're seeing? You know, some of the things that you guys are doing about that would be really good to know about, sort of leaders in technology space and solving some of those workplace challenges. Yeah, I'd love just to have you share about that for a few minutes.
Sure, excellent. Thank you, Matt. And nice segue into what I'm going to talk a bit about next. So really, Energize, the company I founded about 10 years ago, really, we're about energizing leaders and managers in the workplace with more intelligent decisions. And that's using data coming from a place of purpose, but using data and care to actually influence or change in decision making within organizations. And really, one of the things that we're doing right now is building the world's first digital companion for HR leaders. So many of you know, in organizations, many of the decisions around people are driven by the CEO or people in HR or human resources, or some people also go by the titles of people and culture leaders as well. So we're building a decision platform to help them make better decisions for their people around their well-being and mental health. Why is this so important? Because you see, around the world right now, there is a massive workforce shortage. This is a problem that's affecting so many countries. We started off during the pandemic with this trend of the Great Resignation, where so many people resigned from their jobs during the pandemic. But also what we're saying is there's a great reevaluation. So many people over the last 2 years really evaluated, do I want to work as hard as I've been working my whole lifetime? Is there something else to life? I want to prioritize my health more. And for some people, also discovered what's really my purpose here. And this brings us back to what's my main hustle and what's my side hustle going to be. And that's really changed the dynamics in the workforce. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of people that also became sick and burnt out. You know, many nurses and doctors also burnt out through this whole period of caring within the healthcare system. And of course, there continues to be a certain degree of border restrictions in some countries that prevents the migration of staff. So it's become one of the top 2 problems in the world at the moment for businesses. Up to 85% of some of the businesses we talk to have got some shortages. In terms of cost perspective, about $7 out of every $10 of a company's budget is spent on their employees and their workforce. So how you improve that makes a big difference. In Australia alone, the problem's costing over $180 billion. So one of the things we're doing is developing a solution that's a software solution that's helping to aggregate the data, as we talked about, from various different people in the organization and various different systems, and also provides recommendations on what are the right steps in order to take to improve culture, to improve performance, to improve well-being, to improve health and safety, because it's a very, very complex issue, particularly if you work in an environment with many people, particularly if you get into the hundreds and the thousands and the tens of thousands of people. Trying to make these improvements is difficult. And so one of the things that we've been doing in deploying this tool is to actually simplify that process, make it easier for leaders to make these decisions by having the new insights and augmenting that decisions to improve well-being, retention, and ultimately improving efficiency and cost on a return on investment. We've been getting some fantastic results so far, which I'm very happy with in the early trials. Our users who are CEOs and HR leaders are rating it very highly with very high scores, and they're getting that new prioritization, up to 30% new insights that they didn't know were even problems in their organization were coming up. But the beauty of it was this tool will actually deliver it to them 90% faster than if they had to do it all themselves through their own process. And we're starting to see outcomes improvement. About 8% of workforce costs have been saved in our trial sites, and we've been able to reduce the turnover of employees. So all those employees that become burnt out and leave, we were able to reduce that to 0% over a 6-month period in this one organization. Our work won us an award from the International Hospital Federation, which is a global body evaluating these best practices. And we've taken that work not just in healthcare, but also into companies in the technology and engineering space, the retail environment, and so on as well. So really, taking a step back to how does this relate to you? Really, if you're in a leadership position, whether you're a CEO, HR leader, senior executive, or you're in a workplace and you run your own small business, you have to think about what are the right decisions for you as a leader to enable better workplace mental health and a better experience, a working experience. You might be looking at physical wellness interventions, such as fitness training, nutrition, sleep, and so on, mental and emotional interventions. You might be looking at mindfulness, for example. You might also want to look at social and relationship interventions. So how do you build more connection and connectedness? Because we all know that social bonding helps people stay together, live together, stay well together, and live longer as well if you have that bonding and connection. But also, how do we make that environment more comfortable for our workers? If you're sitting on a chair all day, they say sitting is the new smoking, right? Sitting itself is a health risk factor if you do it for prolonged periods of time. And so how do you make that environment safer and more comfortable? It all ties back to that holistic element of health. But you have to, as a leader, whether you're leading your own life or you're leading the wellness of your own family as a mother, or you're running a business or a large corporation, it is about your choices and decisions as a leader to enable that improvement. So one of the things, and tying back to this mental health challenge and the peace of mind challenge that we got, is that this wellness experience is going to be a significant evolution, not just in this year, but in the years and decades to come as well. And we see that as being a transition of collecting data, translating that into information that you can use, and then ultimately growing that into knowledge and wisdom. And that wisdom and knowledge is what gives you the right actions from your experience to make better health outcomes for yourself. What is that going to look like for the next 10 days for you? Well, the data is going to come through voice and text messages, either through your emails or your mobile phone. The information is going to come through in the form of reports. You're going to get reports about your own health and well-being. And the Shea virtual assistant and Shea Wellness is going to provide recommended actions of what you do to actually improve your well-being. And finally, that wisdom is going to come from that improvement in your mental health and your wellness experience as well. So everything that you're going to encounter from any technology or device that you're going to use is going to go through this evolution of data, from data to wisdom. And this next 10 days will be a great introduction and example for you to experience that firsthand as well, whether you're an individual person or you're a leader in a corporation or a business and you want to make that difference in your lives as well. So to conclude, we've really covered off my journey, some talks about digital trends, consumer wellness and healthcare. We talked about data and the future human experience, workplace mental health, and how that relates to your next steps as part of this challenge as well. So I really want to thank Matt and the time of yourself and the team at Shea, and wonderful work that you've done, Unify as well. And I really want to share some of my contact details here. You can find my email address and NHS. If you are a corporate leader, if you are an investor in this space and you want to invest in technology that helps this space, or you want to reach out and actually build a community that actually gets this out there, I'd love to chat to you. Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity, to Matt and everyone. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you again, Matt.
Thank you, Abby. Well, just before I let you go, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us on this call. It's been really great just to get a finger on the pulse for what's happening in the industry and how you guys are really just moving the needle on this digital medicine in the workplace. Before you go, I want to ask you your vision. So if we go back to the start of your talk, you shared a lot about you and your personal journey. And I know that why you do what you do is because you are just one of us, that you're here for the journey. You're here to support people. You want to make a difference in the world. I'm just going to ask you for your final words. Why do you do what you do? And what's your one message you'd like to share with the world today on World Mental Health Day?
Well, the reason I do what I do is I want to live my full purpose in helping heal others and make the biggest difference that I can from a health and well-being perspective. That's really why I became a doctor in the first place. That's why I do what I do now in technology. Ultimately, everything is part of my personal mission to actually improve the health and well-being of others. And I really want to see a better world where people can actually take that empowerment and have the tools that they need to live their best lives.
Beautiful, Dr. Abby. Thank you so much for being here. What a beautiful way to wrap up towards the end of our World Mental Health Day. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for being here throughout today. We've just got Katie Lee, who's about to join us here, and I'll let Abby keep on rolling. Thank you very, very much. What a day so far, everybody. It's been very, very large. If you're just joining us now, at the end of the day, we started with the Dalai Lama. We went through and saw, we had a beautiful chat with the founders for Unify and Shea, connecting in on why we're here and the big mission and purpose behind it all. I then had a talk on personalized consciousness and how we're so different and unique, and just the different multi-complex layers behind that, and how AI is now helping make that a very tangible and simple conversation. We had Deepak Chopra come in to share a beautiful segment with us. We've had Dr. Jane Goodall, had Dr. Cam McDonald, we had Dr. Daniela Remy, had Anne Larson, Dr. Abby that's just shared with us right now. What a day, Katie Lee. What a day.
What a day indeed. Chock full of so many pearls of wisdom and insights. It's been very inspiring all along the way.
Love it, Katie. So I'm going to ask you, have you got any questions that you'd like to ask to wrap up this beautiful segment, or any words of wisdom you would like to share with those that are dialing in on the live stream, wherever they are in the world?
Well, actually, I would love to take this opportunity to talk to you, Mr. Riemann, because you are probably one of the most humble people that I know, and you have done incredible things out in the world, and you have such a wealth of knowledge, and you are a jet setter, and you're having lots of big conversations in lots of parts of the world. And so to have you here grounded on this call for a solid 8 hours is a miracle, I must say. And I would just love for us just to wrap up this day, actually, just learning more about you and more about your vision and what you see in the world. I have actually a bio here that I'd love to read out about you, because it's quite impressive for those of you at home who are unfamiliar with Matt. You are about to be very familiar with the incredible work that this man has achieved so far in his life. Now, Matt is a highly sought after authority in the fields of precision health and personalized consciousness, consulting with the US, South America, China, Dubai, European Union, and Australian governments, and global organizations such as United Nations and World Health Organization, as well as assisting many high-profile influencers, leadership councils, and celebrities across the globe. Among his many roles he is sought after include he's being featured as a health futurist and go-to expert in preventative medicine, future health, personalized consciousness, applied epigenetics, predictive neuropsychology, and nutrigenomic sciences. He's a social entrepreneur in the fields of personalized health and future human consciousness, lecturer and clinical educator at several universities in Australia and the United States. He's a scientist and educator, training doctors, health professionals, and fitness experts globally over the past 15 years. And of course, as you have seen, he is daylighting as an incredible host here for the World Mental Health Day Summit. And I'm just so thrilled that we've had your genius and expertise here guiding the conversation every day, or every session that we have had here today. And I just love to actually take this time to dive in a little bit into this area that I know you've spoken about on many worldwide stages in front of very many impressive organizations, around this concept of future health and what that really is all about, and understanding that you are this incredible expert when it comes to the human body and when it comes to understanding health and science. You know, I'd really love to hear from your perspective why mental health is important to the human condition.
Wow, Katie, thank you. What a great question and a great introduction. So where do I start with that? So the mental health is essentially the future of our species that we need to be considering right now. It's been touched on in all the talks today. And really, when we take a big step back about where we're going, and where we've been in the dark ages, we've been in, as hunters and gatherers, and we're evolving from bigger, stocky humans that are out there, hunting and gathering, to more like our actual body evolution and shape is changing in humanity over the last couple of centuries. And we're moving more towards people that are less physical on the planet doing things, and more towards more intellectual people that are sitting behind computers doing things and behind screens. Deepak even touched on that today. They're working pretty hard on saying, let's get everybody into computers and into the metaverse. It just means physically we're going to be sitting down a lot in our armchairs and couches. So we're sacrificing our physical bodies for our mental bodies. And so this is a really interesting time, I believe, at the apex of this journey in humanity. As we evolve, the decisions we're making are all moving towards a much more intellectual journey and a much less physical journey. And so there's this battle at the moment with almost everybody in the world about kids and screen time and what that means. But the fact that a 2-year-old can pick up an iPad and use it better than a 62-year-old kind of speaks for itself, where the younger generations are just very intuitive. Their whole journey is going to be immersed in technology, whether the older Gen Xers and the boomers want to go fight it or not, it's going to happen anyway, regardless. So it's just a matter of making sure that we can be really, really smart and assistive with our journey along the way. But there's just huge ramifications that we need to consider in that aspect of how we transition as a species to be much more intellectual and spend our time in essentially virtual and digital realities, which is the bigger players in the world are pushing us that way. And how we go about that. I still remember when I grew up, I traveled around the world, in between university degrees, and we used to write letters to people. You'd meet people at a place and you'd write a letter to them, like a handwritten letter, and post it to them to stay connected. I'm showing my age now, but we didn't have mobile phones back then. It's been a huge curve in just the last couple of decades that we've been just so I guess incredibly blessed to be part of this. That to the journey, everybody look back from years to come to say, wow, this is when things changed. Back in the early stages, like as kids, we grew up playing out in the fields and kicking the sticks around and all those sorts of things. And these days the kids grow up on on PlayStations and watching YouTube and Netflix and whatever else that's there. It's just a very different world than what existed back then. So it's a very steep learning curve for our minds. It's a very sad learning curve for our bodies. And we're obviously seeing the ramifications of that now with the amount of sickness and health issues that we're seeing around the place physically, but also the rapid increase we're starting to see mentally. We're just not prepared for it. Our genes just aren't ready. Our minds just aren't ready for what's happening right now as a collective species as a whole. I'm talking here. So it's just this transition period that's likely going to go for the next couple of decades. Will be really interesting to see what happens. And the couple of decades is most interesting because the kids who are walking around with their iPads at age 5 and 10 now are the ones who are going to be leading our companies and organizations in 20 years from now, which is the ones who will be completely immersed in the technology, Web 5 and beyond by that stage. And the Web 3 chats now that seem exciting, the metaverse that seems exciting will be just the launch pad of what happened 20 years before in the future. So it's an exciting time to be alive. It's definitely an exciting time to be moving towards these areas and harnessing technology. But we just need to be quite mindful of the carnage that happens along the way with many people who aren't as built. And we talked this morning about our capacity, our biological capacity, and as many of us that are built for intellectual conversations and great, let's get in the metaverse and let's change the world. And there's many of us who are not built for that, who are saying, whoa, that's a lot to take in. That's hard to do it. I'm just still getting used to like trying to put a credit card on my phone. What? I'm still swiping. I don't know about this whole Apple Pay thing. It's a very, it's a bit of a dichotomy that we're happening and we're seeing in society. So interesting times. The journey's quite large, but the bigger organizations and governments are all pushing towards it. Digital currencies, digital everything's is just going to be immersing ourselves in the future. And most of the big companies and thought leaders are all pushing into the metaverse. So whether anyone likes it or not, it's happening. And whether anyone likes it or not, at some stage very soon, instead of going to catch up with someone for a holiday and flying somewhere, you'll just be at home in the lounge chair and with your headset on and go to Fiji together and having a drink by the ocean, and that will be your reality. And it's an interesting concept, which I've talked about a lot for many years, as you probably know, but your body still has the same reactions in that virtual reality because your mind can't tell the difference between space and time. And so if I'm putting on a headset in virtual reality and I'm actually sitting at home on my couch, but I'm there with Katie in Fiji sipping on margaritas by the pool and the birds are flying around or whatever, my body has the same physiological aspects that happen to it as if I was there with you live. So I can still go and have a significant physiological effect in my body with certain things. Like, again, if we end up in the metaverse with issues and problems and causing stress and bullying and all that sort of stuff that's going to end up there too, that's an issue that will affect me just as much and does now with huge amounts of people digitally. Or it can be something that's very positive. I can get my hits and my stuff of all my oxytocin and my dopamine and all the things that I'd like to get physically now. So it's an interesting time to be able to replicate that, but to understand the power of the mind, to be able to change your physiology is one thing, but to be able to harness the journey of where you take the mind without it really realizing that it's a different experience is quite powerful, quite interesting. And we, as you know, do a lot of research in this space at the moment because it's really interesting. I believe the future of where we're going is going to be well versed in the mind.
So interesting. Now, thinking about the future, I know that being a health futurist and a visionary is something that you're actually quite highly sought after, and that the Shea technology is well ahead of its time and has been ahead of its time for many, many years now. And I've used the comparison before with yourself and James Cameron and the movie Avatar. Now, Avatar was a multi-billion-dollar big box office hit that came out in 2009. However, James Cameron, the director, actually had the original inspiration and vision for the movie back in the 80s. And he wrote it, and he knew that the technology available at that time just actually wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't up to a standard that he knew he wanted to achieve to create this spectacular vision and this universe inside the Avatar world, you could say. And so he had to wait until the technology was there. So it wasn't until, going into the noughts that he was able to find the technology to help bring his vision to fruition and to create the spectacle that he did. And I really see a lot of the similarities in yourself and in Shay, and understanding where the technology is at, but you just have this uncanny vision about where we're going, where we need to go, and really just working with the technology now. But how can we advance that technology? How can we innovate? How can we work towards the future? And so from that perspective, I'd love to hear from you just your thoughts on what the future of healthcare does look like.
Yeah,
or the
sure.
future of mental health care, let's say.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's it's a very good conversation. So yeah, we've been in those many aspects, I guess, leading the way for many, many years. And we were talking about personalized health before anyone even knew what it was. Like back in even 2010, 11, 12, 13, it's like people didn't know what personalized health was. It was very difficult to have a conversation. It seems weird now that was actually reality, but we had to go and educate people a lot on that. Everyone was really skeptical, really hesitant, didn't know what it was. The personalized piece was kind of like, oh, what's personalized? No one even knew what it was, and it was very hesitant. So that's now obviously changed quite a lot. It's the curve has gone significant, and everything's personalized now. You can take your dog for a shampoo and it's personalized. You can everything's personalized. So now we have precision health. We're much more precise with what we do rather than personalizing, which is quite a big difference. And what I see moving forward into the future, you take Shay, for example, which everyone gets to experience 10 days. We're sort of pushing on the front end of the curve of what's available with technology right now, but it's not good enough for where we're needing to go. So we are ahead of our time in the fact that what we want to build isn't ready yet. It's not even possible to do it with the technology yet. It doesn't exist, but it's being built, which is exciting. So what we've got, that can exist right now on the forefront, the fact that you can scan your body with your smartphone on the outside to understand your health on the inside is very revolutionary, very, very pioneering. The health metrics that we take with mental health and physical health metrics are very, very, very advanced. The predictions that we're able to make about hormone levels, about brain regions, about different deficiencies in certain nutrients and many different aspects of your physiology is very kind of impressive and mind-blowing for where the technology is at now, but it's still not able to do the things that we need it to do yet. So I see this next evolution of things. I'm really excited for everyone to experience that, experience Shay throughout this next 10 days. And but the power of the brain that exists behind and underneath the surface it's phenomenal. And the fact it can understand and consider all the different things that happen in your daily life. Like, if you haven't slept well for the last 3 nights and you're highly stressed and you decide to go for a 10-mile run, then Shay might calculate that and add a banana to your smoothie recipe to give you more energy throughout the day, for example. But then a few days later, maybe you're sleeping well, you're not stressed, and you're not doing much exercise, Shay will give you different advice. So it's this new phase of precision health. It's new, it's exciting. There's not 20 years of randomized controlled trials on precision health. And the reason being is it's because it blows the paradigm and completely disrupts the whole of the science industry and health, because it's going against what we usually do, which is we have a controlled variable. We do let's say, Katie, we do the banana diet. We control the bananas and you just eat bananas and we track it and see what happens, and that's it. We kind of forget usually, like, oh, maybe you are going through a divorce, or maybe your kids are stressing you out, or maybe you're doing all these other things that we just ignore or exclude. And so it's a really interesting time. We'll just comment on the bananas. We'll say, Katie ate bananas and this is what happens. So bananas do this. That's it. And we'll just make sure you do the bananas. That's it. We don't ever consider all the psycho-neuroimmunological biodata that happens with all the things around you at the same time as you're eating a banana. So we don't take into account like what Netflix shows you're watching to be stressed at night, or what your relationship status is, or how aligned are you in your workplace with the work that you're doing. We don't consider all the things that actually make you as a human healthy or suffering from a disease state. We just talk about the bananas and that's it. So we're actually really blowing that whole paradigm apart to say, actually, did you realize that we got all of this wrong? And we all put our hands up as scientists here saying, we got it completely wrong. We're just trying to make it fit for what we want to do, for whatever companies and organizations are wanting to show whatever they want to show. But it's common sense. Everybody knows that we're complex humans, complex dynamic interplays of all our interconnected systems. You can't just have one thing, you control one variable and expect it's going to work. You need to consider, like, how's this person sleeping and what are they thinking about and how stressed are they and what are they being mindful? What's their exercise or activity habits like? Who do they hang out with? And all these factors that need to go into it's all of these things that make up the person being healthy or not healthy. And so that's what we're able to do with Shay now, is really quantify all these factors and constantly rebalance things. So it's just understanding that we're trying to, as humans, we're always looking to come back into a state of equilibrium. And if we can help rebalance things, so if you didn't sleep so well, what can you eat to make sure that balances out? Because we don't live in bubbles. Nothing's ever perfect. The more we try and force ourselves to stick to the right diet or something like that, the more trouble we get into, because it's just impossible to do that. Just how do we constantly sort of match and mirror and have almost like a team of doctors, psychologists, dietitians, and everything in between, geneticists, neuroscientists in your pocket or in your hand all the time, that can also just give you advice as you need it based on who you are and what you do. So this is the sort of brain that exists in the AI engine, which is really, really cool, that's able to help provide that information. And the technology itself, with the scanning technology and other things that are coming, are really quite exciting. But that's just a bit of what we see for now, the limitations where we are now, but still very exciting, very pioneering technology, and the things that are to come in the future. And I don't know how much time we've got, but we often like to talk about the things that are coming in the distant future, which is, understanding about electromagnetic frequencies and magnetic structures and systems that we've got in our bodies. There's certain ways that we can match those frequencies, very different to what exists now in the sort of electrostim and magnetic worlds, but ways that we can actually really start to shift the needle based on personalized understandings of neural pathways, of different chemicals and biochemical reactions of electrical flow in the bodies, which is all different for everybody, right? So just an interesting time. The fact that I see the vision and future of being able to scan your body with a smartphone to pick up the frequencies and energies, and then just to be able to emit that back in and change frequencies in the body, to be able to do things. So the technology that's not available yet, that's being worked on, is going to be a real game changer for people in their health and their lifestyle. But also from the mental health aspect, the way that we're working on that is to really have that immersive experience. And there's also some good companies doing this right now too, in the cognitive behavioral therapy aspect, where you can have that immersive experience through VR, AR, even just through normal app experiences, to really change the way that you're thinking about things. So more of your subconscious mind and patterns that are there, the ones that we spoke about at the start of this call, where they're the things that might show up having you feel sad or stressed or depressed or full of doubt or fear and other things like that. There's ways that you can change that, and we can do that through digital technology now. So digital medicine, as Dr. Avi just spoke about, is really a thing that's been, it's got a lot more science and evidence behind it now, and there's some really great studies out showing it actually works more effectively than medications through just using a smartphone. So it's a really exciting time to be alive with all the things that are possible, and it's really exciting to be on the forefront of working on all this stuff that's there. So it's an exciting journey. I'm really excited to be part of helping pave this for the future as to where we're going, and hopefully heading that in a good direction with the technology.
Absolutely. Well, you paint such a fascinating picture of the future and where we're going and the potentials and possibilities. And I'd love just to bring us back down to the here and the now and where we're at when it comes to the mental health conversation. And I'd love to hear your perspective on when it comes to current mental health interventions and strategies and conversations and approaches. Where do you think that we've got it right? And where do you think that we've missed the mark?
Great question, Katie. So where we've got it right is we're heading more towards the subconscious conversations. So that's a really good thing. So a lot of the cognitive behavioral therapy stuff that we just spoke about before, people are starting to be much more aware of that. There's a lot more research being done, understanding there is things you can do to help control how you feel and the things you're suffering from mentally. So that's really good. Back, not all that many years ago, we used to stick electrodes in your head to try and change things. And back years before that, we used to take, lobotomies out of pull parts of your brain out of your head to try and make you feel better or whatever. So we've come a long way in that aspect. We can now use an app for that, which is nice. So we're doing that right, I think, and moving towards that space of just getting the fact that there's things underneath the surface that cause how we feel and what we experience every day. So that's a really good step in the right direction. It's still early stages by all means. It'll be another 10 to 15 years before it's adopted, consistently, but there's some great progressive organizations and amazing health ambassadors out there doing really progressive things in that space, which is great. So that's a really positive point from the psychology aspect. I think one of the things we could do a lot better is one of the things that we're doing with Shay is just to understand how biology plays a key part to that. It's not just a psychology conversation. We've missed the part, on the big predisposition factor. That if I'm a weightlifter, if I'm built like a weightlifter, no matter how much you want to get me to be a marathon runner, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's how it is. No matter how much I want to sit there and believe in myself and manifest whatever's coming, it ain't going to happen. There's a sort of capacity that we have, that we're here for on the planet, and we can do so much within that capacity. But a sprinter is a sprinter, and a weightlifter is a weightlifter at the end of the day. And yes, everybody can walk and run, but there's some runners who are amazing runners, and there's most of us who are just going to be average runners or poor runners for most of the time. Can we all run? Yes. Can we all meditate and be mindful? Yes. But it's the same principles, and we understand now the personalization, which is the thing I think we've got a fair bit of room to move as a society on. This is probably the big area that I feel excited about, is just that precision area and that personalization aspect, where we can start to understand the consciousness of people in a very complex way with AI, to understand exactly the frequency that this neurotype needs based on the depth of their neurons, based on the different frequencies that's going to match their neurotype, to actually change somebody's behavior or help their nerves change in the actual pattern or firing pattern they're doing. It's going to be the difference, or it is the difference between Katie or Matt, who aren't sleeping well at night, for example. There might just be a difference in soundtrack or music that plays at night that changes that from being stressed to being relaxed, for example. It may be a food that you eat. It may be a banana that you have that releases tryptophan, that's the precursor for serotonin that makes you feel better. But for me, it's watching a funny cat video on YouTube, for example, like just to understand the differences in how we're wired, the different intervention points that are going to need to be intervened for that specific person, and then the ways to apply that in a way that's very engaging for the person, and then moving towards sustainable behavior change. And that's probably one of the most exciting things about a show with Shay, is that sustainable behavior change. That's sort of the holy grail in this space at the moment. So yeah, that personalization is the key piece. I firmly believe that, but it's a lot deeper than just just looking at an app. It's going through the understanding of that brain, the AI, exactly the sort of type of person, its predispositions for the psychology that's there, the biological processes that actually drive the psychology as well, like the hormones, etc. Influxes of many different hormones, whether you like it or not, and however much you want to think about it, you're just going to be at liberty of your hormones. It's a perfect way. I think Deepak shared it about kids, that they just experience so much joy. And that's the truth. It's like kids are joy until we go and change that as they grow up, or until it changes as we grow. It's the same with hormones. If you've got a child that's there, they don't have the conscious reasoning or the cognitive abilities to be able to sit there and process and say, oh, it's completely inappropriate for me to throw a tantrum right now at age 3 years old. I'm just going to do it. And they just do it. And there's just a rush of hormones that come in, and they get the tantrum. It's not because they're bad kids. It's not because they were premeditated that they're going to I'm going to be upset and embarrass my parents in public and all the things that the parents think, and then they get smacked or they get reprimanded in whatever way that's nice these days. But the parents react as they can. The child's just being a child. They're literally just growing through their hormones, and that's it. Their behavior is dictated by hormones. So in our most optimal state of freedom, and as we work through the health types, some people more than others need to express, and they're much more vocal, much more verbal. Others need to do that physically, some verbally, some mentally. And we can actually now quantify that for people, help guide them in those ways, to help provide tools for them to do that, connect them in communities and groups to be able to share that and express that as need be, and really grow and work together, and just take that stigma away and say, hey, it's your biology. Your hormones are like that. You act like that because you got hormones. It's not because you're a bad person. It's like you can't do anything about it. But as long as everyone knows about it, everybody can accept that and then work with you in those ways. So it's just a massive biological piece that's been missing from the equation. And it's just really, the most simple way to say it is, your body is what you need, your mind is what you want. So it's understanding about what your needs are and what your wants are to really help you move that to forward. And that's what we're really doing with the Shay intelligence, is bringing those needs and wants together. And the tangible way to talk about that is, if I wanted to lose 20 kilos, for example, or 20 pounds, I'd go and do what everyone else in the world would do. I'd listen to a few podcasts, Google a few things, watch a few YouTube videos, and whoever's probably marketing to be the best, I'd go and follow them. I'd do a boot camp at 5 o'clock in the morning. But for me, I don't know that that's actually going to cause me more stress on my physical body because of my physiology. If I was a guardian, for example, it's going to cause increased cortisol for response for that, and it's going to cause me to actually have more health issues and gain more weight than what I would if I did Pilates or as a light strength training session at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, for example. And so it's just these understandings to be so precise with the exact thing that that exact person needs at that time of day, the exact workouts, in this example here, to get the person the actual needs, to address the needs that are there. And that's the difference between the biology, which is that person needs to do something different. What they want to do is go and do the boot camp at whatever hour of the morning because of what they've learned, what they've read. And then, of course, all the other sort of intelligence that happens out there will then just send them different behavioral stuff. So Google and Facebook will go and send them vouchers for more boot camps and to buy more shoes and get a cheap pass for this. So everybody can tell you more about what you want, but nobody really knows what you need and is able to tell you that specifically. So that's probably a big gap that we're starting to see solved. That's what we're really trying to solve with Shay, and just bridge those two worlds together of body and mind. And as we talked about at the start of this call, we really believe that we've got some great insights as to why we're on the planet from a spiritual perspective, so that we're actually choosing a body with capacity to do what we're here to do, unlock some keys in our biology to understand how our mind works and open our mind to be more connected and to have a beautiful synergistic and aligned experience here of life.
So fascinating, Matt. Thank you for expanding and sharing your vision and your thoughts on that. It really is fascinating to hear your perspective, and you've got such a diverse background to draw knowledge from. It's always so interesting to hear. Now, I love that you've now taken the conversation back up more into the humanity. We've been talking a lot about the day-to-day and the science and a lot of grounded conversations, but I know this audience here that we're connected into is an audience that really enjoys more of the bigger picture and more of the spiritual conversations and thinking about the togetherness and the bigger one as well. And I know today we've covered such things as physical health. We've talked about mental health and the emotional health and even spiritual health and connecting in. And so I'd really love to hear your thoughts on, let's have a fun question here. Let's say that you have a magical wizard staff or magical fairy wand, whatever you want to do, and you could solve one issue that is impacting our collective consciousness the most right now in a negative way. So impacting our mental health for humanity. If you could take your wizard staff or magic wand and cure one of those ills, what would you cure and why?
Great question, Katie. I love the end of the day questions. So this would be, I guess, my answer to that would be anything like any limiting belief would be, like limitations would be my answer. And the reason being is because, like, the reason why we're all here, the reason why we're running this challenge is for awareness. The reason why we're all here, like, Patrick and Adil, myself, many of us that are here, all of us that are here actually are doing this because we want to actually help change the conversation. We want to help everybody move forward in the journeys. As I shared, I strongly believe the key piece of this is the mind. It's just literally the joiner between spirit and body, spirit being all that we are and body being who we are while we're here on the planet. It's this joiner piece, and it either enables beautiful flow or it blocks flow. And where we get blocked, where we have limitations that are there, things just don't go as well as they could in life. And a lot of people suffer a lot of things without knowing about it, without having any awareness of what they can do about it. And so if my magical wand could remove limitations or limiting beliefs out of people's minds, I think there'd be a lot more people that say, you know what, I can do this. I can actually have perspective and get my context correct, get my perception back, and actually see the world with, like, anything's possible and everything's possible. And actually, you know what, I'm choosing to see this as a positive thing today. I'm choosing to see this thing that I would have seen as negative as a lesson. I'm choosing to actually be grateful for all the learning opportunities I get on my journey along the way. And actually, you know what, I feel really great about that. I know I'm learning and growing every day, and that's why I'm here. And I'm feeling fantastic about that. And you know what, not just that, but I'm not focused on the sad or upset or the issues or the problems or the stresses anymore. I'm focused on, wow, what could I do with my mind? How powerful is my mind? Look at all the things that I could do and create. Wow. Like, what are my gifts and abilities? Why am I even here? What is this genius that I'm on the planet for to do, to let it flow? How do I get in flow? What is my purpose and how do I plug into that? And I'm focused on all the great questions that enable myself to move forward and be healthy and happy. And the reason why that's the thing is because if we're trying to change the world, which all of us are, all it takes is for me just to change me. And if I change me and you change you and someone else changes them, and that just happens, and each individual just changes themselves, we've changed the world. So this big complex conversation of how we're ever going to do it is actually just one individual changing themselves. And I think removing those limitations from any mind space would be probably a really great step towards that.
That's amazing. Love that, Matt. Thank you for getting creative with me and coming out of the science realm for a little bit there with that question. Now, just as we're wrapping up, I know that our time is almost over here. The question that I have heard you ask a few of our panelists and speakers throughout the day is, why do you do what you do?
Good question. I don't know. I don't actually know the answer to that, Katie. I don't actually know. I just know that I'm here to do it. I believe firmly that I am living completely on purpose. I'm really clear on my purpose. I'm really clear on my genius and my flow. I like to live in flow every day, and the magic kind of shows up when you live in flow. So I believe that I'm here to make a big difference in the world. I believe that very strongly. I'd go as far as saying I know that. And so I just contribute my time towards whatever that looks like to be able to move the needle on that, to be able to help people around. I was very lucky with my programming younger. I'm one of the ones who got lucky in this lifetime, where I had an incredible upbringing with nothing but unconditional love and support. And those who know me and my family all contest to that. I haven't had a lot of the things to have to work through in many ways, and we all have our stuff for sure. But I've been very blessed on my journey to really see the potential and to be able to focus a lot on what's possible ways. And I feel like I'm just and to be really helping the future of humanity go in the right direction, helping us all evolve in ways that we can and maybe can't see ourselves. And sometimes it's just nice to have someone shine a light on something you couldn't see. It's not because you maybe weren't capable or weren't smart enough. It's just that someone else was there and showed you the way. I feel like I'm here to help sort of show the way to some of us at large. And I believe like some of the technology that we're building is part of that journey. Some of the visions that we have for the future and what that looks like for consciousness and even spirituality, I believe, is part of that journey as well. And certainly the nature of the science and the health side of things, which is very tangible, very real right now, is a big part of the journey, because I believe that belief is a big thing. And if you don't believe something, it's very hard for you to take a step forward. And for the science and the evidence-based underpinning Shay is just so important, I believe, right now. To be able to make sure that people can feel safe, feel confident, feel comfortable that it is rooted in evidence and science, scientifically validated evidence-based technology that's there that can change health, that's proven to reverse signs and symptoms of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, mental health, improvements, all these sorts of things, which is just amazing. This is important right now for people to have belief and trust in those things so they can feel comfortable to actually change their lives, because so many people don't take those steps because of fear. And so that just helps. That belief can help a lot. But the bigger journey is certainly moving towards a conscious conversation, and then I guess beyond consciousness, and personalized consciousness is personalized spirituality, and looking at even more the real reason why we're here and the bigger things that we can do, not just ourselves, but as a collective together. So I'm excited for that. And I feel like I'm here for that journey, however that looks, and whatever the time period looks on that, I'm excited about it. So I really appreciate the opportunities to be here, and thank you for asking me some great questions, Katie, at the end of today. And I just really appreciate having the amazing speakers that show up, and Patrick and Adil for this beautiful collaboration and sharing this with the world. And I really hope everybody who's dialed in today can just take advantage of us just here supporting you guys. Just want to support, share it with your family and friends. Everybody needs some support. If nothing else, if you just want to like supercharge where you're at, go do that. If you want some support, we're here for that. But this conversation is all around mental health. We've got 10 days to dive deep to help transform our lives, and it works. And what a great community to be in to be able to do that. So thank you, Katie. Thank you very much for co-hosting throughout today and for the great questions. Thank you to everyone who was involved in today. Really appreciate everybody just showing up. Again, from the Dalai Lama through to Deepak, Jane Goodall, Dr. Cam, Dr. Daniela, and Dr. Abby. It's just been a beautiful day. We've had Zach that was there for the yoga sessions as well, and Anne for some meditations. And Patrick and Adil, just a really beautiful conversations this morning as the day's gone. It's just a beautiful collaboration. And most importantly, thank you for you guys for showing up and listening to our conversations. We're here sharing this with you because we care, because we want you guys to take whatever knowledge and wisdom that we have and that we've discovered and rediscovered along the way. Take what you need from that, what you like from that to improve yourself, your life, your own journey, learn and grow. And we're here to do it with you. So thank you very much, Katie. Thank you everyone for being here. I think this is going to be the wrap for our session today. Now, don't forget that we are here for the next 10 days. What that looks like is we're doing some live streaming for each of the sessions. Katie, I don't know if you've got a schedule around at all or not, but I know that we're doing 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. every morning for the next 9 days, so the full 10 days, PST, Pacific Time, USA. And then we're also doing 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. every day. So that's the 2 live session blocks that we've got, similar to today where we had a very big day, a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Session block. That will have the 9 to 10 a.m. and then the 3:30 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, USA time blocks. So wherever you are in the world, dial in. There's a calendar link. Please jump on it if you want. We'll go through all the sessions that are there for you. If you're not registered already, please do get registered. You need to register to get access to your app so you can be part of the challenge. And then it'll also give you all the details and information about the speakers that are coming up. We've got live speakers every day, Katie. They're amazing. Every single day we've got live speaker sessions that's happening. We've got live meditations, live activity and exercise sessions. It's amazing. We've got some beautiful themes for each day. In fact, tomorrow's theme is, I'll just go through these briefly. Tomorrow's theme is on sleep, activity, and nutrition. So you can really dive deep and just get on top of everything you need for your own sleep, activity, nutrition, just really those key physical pillars of health that really help our mind be in a stable space. Next day, day 3 is on stress and resilience. So diving deeper about personalized stress and personalized resilience for you to really understand what that means for you and how you can be in that space to be very resilient in what's happening moving forward. Day 4 is mindfulness and meditation. So diving deeper, finding out what sort of mindfulness works for you. Again, the personalization, which is what this is all about when you talk about precision mindfulness, everything to do with that is unique. So for us to meditate, for some people to sit there in a quiet space in a dark room, doesn't work at all. That's a really distracting thing. The mind jumps around, they go follow it. It's very difficult for what they're trying to do. Singing in the shower or going for a walk out in nature is more meditative than sitting in a quiet room trying to close down the mind. This is things that we just haven't understood before until we get to this point of the personalization conversation. And when you ask about why you're trying to meditate or be mindful, it's to dive deep and connect with all that is for you. And to do that is different for different people. So really excited to see people just be able to learn new ways to connect for themselves and to really connect with themselves and spirit in this way that maybe they haven't done before.
I know, we didn't even get to that today. Personalized spirituality. That's such a fun topic too. Oh, another time, another one.
Day 5, we're covering lifestyle priorities, and we're going through the differences in changing your food habits versus changing your exercise habits versus changing sleep habits. And guess what? It's different for everybody. For some people, I use weight loss because it's easy for everyone to understand. If you're trying to lose weight, some people can change their diet. It's not going to make a difference at all. But if they exercise, it will. For another person, changing their diet will do all the things to make them lose weight, and doing exercise won't help at all. It just depends on who you are and the way that you're made up with your genetics and biology. These are just really powerful things to understand. So there's a lot of powerful insights for lifestyle priorities about things that are most important for you. So make sure you dive deep on that. Day 6 is genius and purpose, all about just who you're here to be, what you're made up for, how you go about that, and just getting in flow and go. Day 7 is relationships and communication, just building on from what Anne touched on today. Just such a powerful conversation. And this starts with self, always with self, inner peace, peace of mind. How do I understand who I am? How do I understand how I actually go about making peace, accepting myself for who I am? And then how do I understand others and communicate that with others and accept others for who they are? And just have these beautiful, peaceful conversations and connections. Day 8 is on culture and community, taking that to a whole new level. Day 9 is on healthy habits and sustainable behavior change. So really making sure that we can have this as part of our journey moving forward, not just 10 days. And then day 10, we celebrate. We have reflections and celebrations and awards. And I know during this whole challenge, there's different countries. So wherever you guys are dialing in from and joining, we've got different countries that are part of the journey. And whichever country you're from, you start to rack up points. So it's there. We'll know by the end of the challenge which country is the healthiest country as part of this challenge along the way, which is really, really cool. So it's an exciting 10 days. Get amongst it, get involved, tell your friends, and please invite somebody who needs this. Everybody knows someone who's suffering in some way, shape or form, whether they're wanting to lose weight, wanting to sleep better, wanting to think better, wanting to be less stressed or depressed, or all the things that are out there, less lonely, more connected, understand self, don't know who they are, not sure what their purpose is. A list goes on and on and on. Everybody knows lots of people like that. Bring them along. This is amazing. It's just an incredible way to connect and a beautiful community around it to do it. So thank you for the opportunity, everybody, for allowing us to be part of this journey today. Katie, again, thank you for allowing the data flow perfectly. And we're looking forward to seeing inside the app. And I know also that inside your app on the homepage, there's actually these live sessions will be streaming there inside your app every day as well. So just be aware that even if you don't dial in on the Facebook thread or whatever, inside your app, you'll have the live morning sessions and evening sessions that'll be live streamed in there for the workshops. And then Shay AI will guide you throughout the day with different ways it can engage. You can set up your voice prompts so you can actually talk to Shay and have it to engage with you, which is really cool. So if you have any questions, support at shay.ai. Otherwise, jump into the Facebook group. That's the main way where we're going to engage and support everybody. So on the final wrap for me, Katie, huge thanks again to Precision Health Alliance, our sponsors, that are just bringing health professionals to support the community and the journey, which is phenomenal. And we're very, very grateful for that. So that's over and out from here. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you again, Patrick and Adil and all the Unify community. Everyone's put a lot of work into getting this live, and we're excited about the journey and what comes next. So thank you all so much. Have a beautiful rest of your World Mental Health Day, and we'll see you live on the session tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, USA.